Well, we needed a hero in the worst way last night. He's not a jukebox hero. He is a $1 million a year hero for the San Diego Padres. Thank you, Jerkson Pro.
He's a batter's box hero.
He is a batter's box hero. He is a Washington Nationals target. Give me one real quick. Hang on. Yeah! That's what I needed. I told Paulie this morning I'm in desperate need of primal scream therapy. Summer is off to a rough start in the Woods household. It's just hard. A lot to juggle.
Want to go to those rage rooms?
Oh, more than anything. Oh, God.
I've done that.
You have.
It's fun.
It was made for me, man. It was made for... I just saw stars, by the way. I just screamed so loud. I'm seeing stars right now. Great to be here with you guys. Ben and Woods 97.3, The Fan. Nothing like completely turning your vocal cords into hamburger meat at 6:02. You know, on the heels or at the very beginning of a 4-hour set. And that's what I just did.
Well, you can't cheer when the actual, winning run happens because everyone in your house is asleep.
Yeah, for hours. For hours they were asleep. And it was one of those where I hopped out of bed and went, it was incredible. An incredible, incredible win. Oh, you sons of... You guys make me insane, man. You're going to kill this entire city. But hopefully you guys stayed up for it last night. If not, you know what? I really don't blame you. I damn near turned it off after the home run, too, and went to bed. But I just wanted to see what these San Diego Padres would do. And, boy, did they deliver. I'm in awe of that win last night. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about all the good, the bad, the ugly. All the stuff that happened pregame and all that, but holy smokes. Let me introduce the show. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl. He's the executive producer. Good morning, Paulie.
Good morning.
We have not gotten into yet, and I let you off the hook yesterday. Your world's colliding with Taylor Swift, who you love, and Dave Grohl, who you love as well, and their factions of fans warring. In social media, yes, it was insane.
I'll make it real quick. I think it's all stupid.
Okay, fine.
I think it's all really stupid.
Okay.
Both sides.
Both sides.
Fans.
All right. Because
stupid.
I
don't understand it. I don't know why it's happening.
I don't either.
Get it.
And I thought to myself when it happened, I went, "Oh, this is like this is like a Greek tragedy, right? It's like, man, I love her, but I love him, and this is very, very difficult." And Ben had looking at me like he has no idea what I'm talking about. Zero.
Didn't Dave Grohl say something about Taylor Swift not performing everything live?
Yeah, using backing tracks.
Backing tracks and not 100% live during her 4-hour concerts.
Yes. Which, Dave, by the way, not that uncommon for a pop artist. It's just not. I don't know why you would get upset by that.
No, on Dave's side, we do a 4-hour concert every morning, and we're pretty much entirely live.
I would love to
entire
play
4 hours.
A backing track for as much as we could. Just us in the background talking. If you need a breather, you've got one. Take a breath, whatever. But I let Paulie off the hook yesterday. I was driving home. I went, damn it! How did I forget to ask him about this? Ben Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor and pop culture guru, yesterday learned about Hawk Tua, and that was a lot of fun on the program. It's good to have you.
Good morning. Or is that my backing track saying good morning?
That's your
I'm
backing
not sure.
track. I loved it. I loved every second of that victory last night.
Not every second.
Every second of the victory.
Well, yeah.
When it was over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a period from 3-0 to down.
Took my soul.
3-6 that wasn't exactly the most enjoyable part of the season.
It's like we've said now several times over the last, 10 days, walk-offs feel pretty damn good in the moment when they happen, but walk-offs generally aren't usually a great thing.
It means you're down, man. It means you're down.
There's the rare exception, like, hey, we just didn't have it tonight. We fought and clawed back, but more often than not, it's like, oh, we blew it. We came back and we ended up holding it off.
Oh God, man. I had a little bit of faith, a little bit last night, but I
had faith they'd score one.
I had faith that they'd score the runner on second. I did too. We'll break down the game and all that, but man, I don't know how much more of this I can take. And like I said this maybe last week, Benny. I said, boy, this team sure burns a lot of fuel, man, to keep around 500. They really do. I mean, they are burning a tremendous amount of fuel to keep a game over 500. And I think there's credit that needs to be given for that. I think there is. This team could have fallen off the cliff many, many times. They still may. It's stupid baseball. We all understand that. But, oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord, that win last night. You know what? I was laying in bed thinking about it last night because I was wired. I was absolutely wired. I didn't get sleep till midnight. I mean, I just could not sleep. I was so fired up, and the Twitter went nuts after with all the Nationals getting their, panties in a bunch about it, and Jesse Winker almost going into the stands after a 66-year-old man. And there's a lot to break down about this game last night. But I was thinking to myself last night, remember how there were just a real lack of moments with this team, really, like a real severe lack of moments. You look back to last year, it was such a disappointing season. The only moments you got Fernando Tatis Jr. stealing home. I mean, that's really the only one that jumps out at me. And then, of course, when they're well out of it, they fought back a little bit at the end of the season when Profar came back, and they won some games, won quite a few games, but it was just too little too late. There's already been a dozen. There's been a dozen moments in 80 games, Ben, that have just been spectacular and exciting and incredible.
Much more like 2022.
Much more like 2022.
Filled with the LFGSD.
Yeah.
And, Jorge Alfaro's walk-off home runs. There were special moments that ended up in a special season. Now, I don't know that this team is heading on that same trajectory or to the same end point, but I do know it's probably going to take more of this for the Padres to continue battling their way into a playoff spot, because with the injuries that they have, and we'll talk about the injuries, they're going to need different guys to continue to step up. They're going to need better, more consistent starting pitching. They're going to need their bullpen to come through because they simply have lacked the star players staying healthy, staying on the field, and producing the way they need to produce. And now with Fernando Tatis Jr., likely out, and you may have heard what Mike Schultz said yesterday, but he is out almost certainly through the All-Star break, and probably even a little bit beyond that, I would guess. They're going to need more guys to step up. Not just Jurickson, not just Arise. They need everybody. Like Kyle Higashioka had a big hit yesterday. It doesn't have to be the same guy every day, but they're going to need hero du jour stepping up for the San Diego Padres for the next, 4 to 6 weeks. Again, like they have pretty much to get to this point in this season. It's been different guys, and it's going to have to continue to be different guys.
Well, I'll tell you, man, those guys believe. Whether we believe, whether the fan base believes, there is zero lack of belief in each other in that clubhouse. And I haven't seen a clubhouse like this in a while. Now, again, as we know, things can change. Things can turn. They can turn for the worse. They can continue, on this path, Ben. You just never know. Based on the comments to the media lately from Jackson Merrill, from Manny Machado, from all these guys, they truly, truly believe in one another. And you can see it. You can see it. I know Manny gets a lot of grief. That dude, I was watching him pretty intently when I was field level on Saturday night. Bro, when Jackson Merrill hit the bomb, first cat out of the dugout. When Kyle Higashioka hit the bomb, first cat out of the dugout. Those dudes are stoked to come to work and play together every day. I don't know what that translates to win or loss. Talent's going to win out in baseball. It usually does. But, man, they are sure as hell fun to watch. And they sure as hell believe in each other. And I think there's something to be said for that,
well,
man.
I think the Padres do have the talent to win out as well, in addition to that, camaraderie and belief. But health also wins out in baseball over a 162-game season.
Health and talent.
And the Padres do not have health. That's one thing that they haven't had all season long, and it's only continued to get worse. Sliding from Manny's, the concern about Manny to start the season has now crept down into pretty much every high-paid player on the roster. The highest-paid players, Manny, Bogarts, Tatis, Musgrove, Darvish. You find a team out there that, okay, your 5 highest-paid players are all hurt. Go ahead and try to make the playoffs now. Go win. It's not easy to do, and give the Padres credit. Give Mike Schultz credit. Give the players credit for hanging in there. Through some of these setbacks that they've endured in 2024.
Yeah, that's what good teams do.
Thank you, Shilty. I do give them a lot of credit. I absolutely do, and I'll tell you. And I know we're all hot. I mean, we are on like we are in the post-coitus glow right now. I mean, that's how you feel. You feel like you're in the afterglow after a win like last night. I'm ready to run down to Petco Park and start fighting Nationals. Like, that's how fired up I am this morning. Jesse Winker, more like Jesse Stinker. More like Jesse Wanker. How about that one for your morning coffee? I don't know, man. Got him, 100%. Got your ass, Jesse. I'm ready to fight these guys. They got me. I'm back. I'm fired up again to watch the San Diego Padres after a win like that. And I understand what the afterglow feels like. It may not come again for a while. We know that. So I want to just take today, at least, to have some fun with it. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about the weird communication about injuries, some of the weird comments that came out yesterday. The fact that, they're not really on the same page injury-wise, message from the player and the front office. It's a weird thing. It happens here. I think it happens in all, with all baseball teams, certainly. But, man, it's there's a lot to talk about today. A lot. Jerkson Profar, though, gets our hero of the morning. He was fantastic last night. What an AB. What a way to deliver. He also cost me $100.
Oh, is that a don't do this moment?
This is
we may have to save that.
I didn't know this. I did not know this. I did not know. I did not know that this was possible. And I thought I had cashed $100 on our San Diego Padres to win by 1.5. Jerkson Profar didn't do something that would have netted me $100. I don't care. I would have paid $100 for that win last night. In fact, I paid $69 for it. I rarely pull out the, hey, $69 to one of my Twitter followers if we win this game, because we're down 3. And sure enough, they came back and won, and I sent $69 to a tier 1 last night named Grace. So enjoy your $69 on the house. I would have paid that for a dub, 100%. What a great win. What a great win. We're taking your calls as well. Again, if you woke up and you went to bed last night after the Nick Senzel home run, you wake up this morning to see that your Padres fought and scratched and clawed their way back to a victory. Jonathan in the chat said, I was ready to go after we gave up the homer. My daughter was like, Dad, let's stay. And we would have missed it. And he stayed and watched the victory. We'll talk about our pal Steve Sugimoto. And he is our NIL-sponsored athlete from SDSU. He's a professional golfer in Japan. He happens to be home in San Diego. I'm trying to get him in the studio.
He's also a psychic,
He's also a psychic. Yeah, we've got that video for you as well. Holy smokes, man. Let's get this thing going and have some fun today.
We'll set the menu next. We also have a really special guest. I don't want to say more special than Jesse Agler, who's very special every week. No offense, Jesse, but one that we don't usually have on Tuesdays. We'll tell you who's coming on the program a little bit later as well. We'll get to all of that coming up in our next segment, but it's a very afterglow Tuesday morning here after the Padres walk off with a 4-run 10th to beat the Washington Nationals 7-6. We'll come back after a check of traffic and get right to it on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So First, it was Will Smith with the, Mr. Irrelevant. He's not even relevant comments. Now it's the Washington Nationals, their manager, Davey Martinez, intentionally walking Luis Arraez to get to Jurickson Profar. He comes out on top again with the walk-off last night. It's going to be the theme of the program today, and we're going to set the menu for you of our show coming up here in just a second. But, Woods, we have a special guest in studio from just down the hall, and I don't want to take up too much of his time because he's got his own show to be running this morning. But John Flint is here from the John and Tammy Morning Show over on KSON, and they do something really special that I wanted to give you an opportunity to let our listeners know about, because anyone who wants to pitch in here would be very much appreciated. Johnny, good morning.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the time. We are doing all week something a little different on our show, and if you don't listen to our show, clearly you don't, because you're tier ones, you listen to this show. But I don't care. I just don't care, because you have a heart, and you love America, and you love the veterans in this town, so many of them suffering from crippling PTSD. We are doing something all week, raising $35,000. It's called John and Tammy's Service Pet for a Vet. Just going to start it off with you. Just go to KSON.com. It'll take you 2 seconds. Click donate. It'll take you to a great place called Paws for Purple Hearts. You guys familiar with this organization here in San Diego?
I've not heard of this, but this sounds like a really cool concept.
Their concept is just helping out those who really need the help.
That's awesome.
And they train these beautiful, unbelievable dogs. Do you know that they can train a dog to sense a nightmare a vet's having before he's having the nightmare?
Wow.
What? And one of many things I learned of this wonderful organization, something else that's the most important part, it costs $35,000 to train one dog and then properly match up this dog with this person that, I mean, we talked to a guy named Vic yesterday. Vic's a decorated Army hero, okay, an important part of the community here in San Diego, who couldn't get his mail, okay, wanted to kill himself because he thought it was a burden to his family. I mean, this is like just a couple of years ago. And he got paired up with his service pet, and he's, I'm sure he's got some issues at times, but he's not on medication anymore. He doesn't want to not be with his family anymore, and this is directly because of this animal. And if you're listening right now, again, I don't care if you listen to our show. Clearly you don't. You're on this wonderful show. But you do know, maybe it's you, but you know somebody that has some kind of issue when it comes to however they served, whether, and all aspects of the military are so important. But these frontline guys and women, we don't even know what they've seen.
100%.
Okay?
100%.
These animals do, and they can help them through this. It's really hard for a hero who's been trained, and it's all about the team, and it's all about, we're going to keep our feelings to ourselves. It's really hard for a person like that to ask for help.
No doubt. No doubt. It's the hardest thing for a lot of men to do.
Right.
It's very, very difficult. We speak about it a lot on this program as well. This idea of having somebody by your side, having something by your side that can help you get through it is massively important.
Well, we all love our pets, right? I mean, I wish anybody reacted the way...
Except for Ben. Yeah, we all, the rest of us love our pets.
I feed my pet the farmer's dog.
That is true.
I obviously love my
that is true.
I've heard. But I mean, we all know how it feels for us who don't suffer from crippling PTSD when we get home. I mean, I wish anybody was as happy as my dog Roger the puppy is when I come home.
Right.
And that fills me with some unbelievable love. That's my boy. Imagine that feeling times a million. And if that's something that you've gone through, then we've got your back. But there are others that won't ask for help. They can't ask for help yet because they don't know how to ask for help, but they are dying inside. And that's not an overstatement. And these dogs can help. If you go to KSON.com, just click on Service Pet for a Vet, donate $1, donate $35,000. Whatever we can get. We're woefully behind right now. Okay. If I sound like I'm panicking, I kind of am, even though it's kind of my MO anyway. But we're doing this all week. But we need about $34,000 yet, guys. So.
Tier ones will step up.
It's only Tuesday, so yeah, please. If you've got just a couple extra bucks, anything will help, and it seems like an outstanding cause.
Really, really good cause.
I want to point something else out that I just found out recently. When you're walking to Petco and you're like a couple blocks away from the ballpark, and all of a sudden it's Tent City, and there are some people that are really suffering and really could use anything you can do. A lot of those guys are vets. I mean, what? That's their reward for whatever happened to them. That's what they get when they come back. Maybe we can help that just by one service animal starting off this trend. And again, it costs a lot of money to get this animal trained, but it's a really, really great cause. $35,000 to pair one perfect perfectly trained dog with one perfectly matched local hero. KSON.com, John and Tammy's service pet for a vet. Guys, thank you
Love
so
it.
much.
I got
John,
it up
thank
on
you.
our YouTube stream right now. I'm showing them the website.
You're the best, man.
There it is. Yep.
I just made a donation.
Oh,
I
you're
love
the
how
best.
I love how it tells you, $25 will provide a vest for a service dog.
Right.
$50 a month of food for a growing puppy. Like, it tells you exactly how and where your money's going. No, that's awesome.
Think about, like, I was just talking to a vet yesterday who was, I don't know if he lives in a particularly rough part of town, but he was walking and he couldn't approach or be approached by people because he thought they were coming at him. And then he got combative, and these people were just walking. Maybe he was in the shady part. I don't know. But here's what I do know. You walk out with a dog. Dog has to go out.
Yeah.
You have no choice. You got to take care of the dog, too.
That's right.
People respond differently when they see people with dogs.
They do.
That's all there is to it. And maybe he was not totally there when he's thinking this guy's coming at me, but doesn't matter because now he thinks, oh, this person likes my dog. And the dog can sense that too, and he's more calm. It's something simple like that. Just getting someone off the couch. Anyone's suffered from any kind of depression ever, when you don't want to get out of bed and go to work, that's a real valid feeling. Imagine that just crushing your soul, and
Crushing
that's
your whole
all
day.
you know.
Yeah, every day.
All right, thank you guys
Great
so,
cause,
so
Johnny.
much.
Well done.
Well,
John,
Use
good
the
for you and
platform,
Tammy.
baby.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to come in again on Friday.
All right,
Okay,
ours
Appreciate it.
ours is
Give us
yours.
an update.
KSON.com, service pet for a vet. I'm sorry to cut you off, Ben.
That's right. Good, a very good cause, and
While you're here,
appreciate
Johnny,
your time.
one of our dedicated listeners, he's in the chat. He says, as a veteran and the father of an active duty sailor, thank you. I have brothers and sisters that their lives depend on this support. So,
Love it.
That means a lot, man. Thank you, guys.
Very
Thanks,
awesome.
Johnny.
And what's as you often say, it's really, really hard to reach out for anyone to ask for help. I've got to imagine doubly, triply so for a veteran.
No doubt.
Someone who's used to combat situations, even tougher.
Push it all down.
Just you're trained not to actually ask for that kind of help because you're the people that other people are asking for help. So it's got to be even more difficult.
No doubt. Yeah, please give what you can. Certainly always happy to use this platform for something like that. And thank you, man. Thank you, Johnny, for coming in. Yeah, man, it's a really, really worthy cause. Really, really cool cause.
All right, quickly, just coming up on the show today, we'll obviously go through all the walk-off calls from last night. We've collected them all. The chirping and what the Nationals TV broadcast was saying after Jurickson's walk-off and the interaction between him and the Washington Nationals dugout. Is that something that could spill over to Game 2 of the series today? We'll also, of course, talk about the many moves. Padres made 6 roster moves yesterday and give you an update on the injury to Fernando Tatis Jr., what he said. What Mike Schultz said was not exactly what Fernando Tatis said, and what kind of doctors say about a stress reaction and the actual amount of time it's going to take for Fernando Tatis Jr. to get healthy again. So we'll talk about all of that. Our regular features in our 7 o'clock hour. I mentioned the special guest, though. Coming up at 7:45 this morning, we'll pause Padres talk for just a second. We are lucky enough to get a few minutes with Bob Kendrick, who's going to join us, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. He was at the Rickwood Field game. He is as knowledgeable as anyone about the history of Willie Mays and this sport, and we've had him on before. He's absolutely fantastic storyteller, the knowledge that he can pass on. Had a big night in San Francisco last night where they honored Willie Mays as well. Everybody on the Giants wearing number 24 last night. So Bob Kendrick is going to be with us for a few minutes at 7:45. Jesse Agler with the Incorporator at 8:35, as he always is on Tuesday. We can get his thoughts on last night's game. We'll hear his call of the walk-off win coming up next, and then final hour, Reindl Report, and more. So that's the menu. I don't want to waste any more time, though. I want to get to our Padres wrap-up and really dig deep into last night's back and forth. Come from behind, come from ahead, 7-6. Padres win over the Washington Nationals. That's next with Bennett Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Padres walk it off over the Washington Nationals. You're about to hear all the highlights, and I did not get to hear the radio highlights last night. In fact, I didn't even get to see the winning walk-off hit by Jurickson Profar.
Oh, Benny.
Which is one of the professional hazards of actually being a sportscaster. You occasionally miss big sports moments because you are working. And last night we had the Stanley Cup Finals Game 7 on Channel 10, which meant we had a late post-game newscast, which because the post-game ran so long, we weren't on the air until, like 8:50, and then I wasn't on until the 9 o'clock hour, and I see my hit is coming up, and I'm looking, and I go, oh, I've got about 5 minutes, and it's the bottom of the 10th inning, and the Padres are rallying, and I'm going like, oh, just win it here. Just get it over with, or, I just want to see the ending. And we're getting, now it's like 3 minutes away, and Jurickson Profar is coming to the plate. And, this at-bat is extending longer and longer. And finally, I realize, okay, I'm on the air in like 45 seconds. I got to sprint to the studio. It's 2-2 count. Bases are loaded. And I don't know what happened. So I leave my office. I go do my sportscast, and I have no idea. When I walk back into my office, I am walking into a surprise. I know one way or the other, the game's probably over.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a loss or a win or how it happened. And as I walk in, I look at my TV, and I see a replay. And it's Jurickson looking like like he had a bloop or something.
Yeah, it was
the swing, the slow-mo swing. I go, oh, did he?
That's an ass-out fly
Did he
ball.
bloop one in front of the right fielder or something? And then I saw the real replay, and I go, that bounced over the wall?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
So I was very happy, but it was about 4 or 5 minutes after it actually happened.
I couldn't believe it, man. I could not believe that victory last night. What a game. 4 in the 10th to win that ball game after you were just deflated, demoralized, given up. All of us had given up. Don't say you hadn't, because you had. Many people turned the game off. I don't blame you. I almost did as well. Let's get the wrap-up going, though. I want to hear this in all its
majestic
we'll get
all the highlights, the ups and downs, coming up right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by SDG&E. A couple of problems here. Hit and run crash on westbound 905 just before La Media. It's in the center divide. And in the South Bay, northbound 805 just past the 5. Accident involving a car and a motorcycle there over to the right shoulder. In peak wildfire season as a last resort, SDG&E may need to shut off power in specific areas for public safety. Learn more about public safety power shutoffs at sdge.com/PSPS. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I love winning, man. I love winning. You hear what I'm saying? It's like better than losing.
Oh my God, I'm so stiff.
Miss any of the Padres win yesterday? Ben and Woods didn't.
What up, crew?
We've got you covered with all of the highlights.
I like it when the Padres win.
Yeah! Yeah! It's the Padres Wrap-Up, presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino, fun above all else.
Yeah! Give me a do damage.
Do damage!
Left-hander delivers. Kim tries to bunt, pushes it towards third. It's a beauty. Corbin picks it up with the bare hand. He's got no play. Cronenworth scores, and the Padres take a 1-0 lead. As he swings here, sends one to the gap in right center field. That's going to get down. Solano rounding third on his way. Kim is right behind him. They're both going to score easily as Higashioka pulls into second with a 2-run double, and the Padre lead is now 3-0. And Meneses swings, muscles one over Kim into left field, a base hit. That'll tie the game. Abrams scores easily. An RBI single for Meneses. He has driven in all 3 Washington runs. And now a 3-3 game here in the 7th. Ruiz swings, muscles it over, rise down the line. That's a fair ball. That's going to give the Nats their first lead of the night. Winker rounding third. He'll score easily. Throw goes into second, not in time. An RBI double for Keibert Ruiz. And Washington leads it 4-3. Senzel swings, hits it in the air to deep left center field. Profar's racing back. He's at the wall looking up. It's going to go. A home run. 2-run home run for Nick Senzel. His first hit of the night. And the Washington lead is now 6-3 here in the 10th. 1-0 pitch. Merrill swings, lines it into center field, and a base hit. Cronenworth has scored. Solano's being waved. He's going to come in and score. A 2-run single for Jackson Merrill, and a 1-run game in the bottom of the 10th. Profar swings, hits it in the air to deep right center. Thomas is back into the gap. Can't get there. They're going to walk it off again. Merrill and Kim score, and the Padres beat the Nationals 7-6.
I've been saying this since the beginning of the season, man. These guys, I go to war with them every day, every night, man. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, the record doesn't say it, but we got ballers in there, man. And, you know, we keep believing in each other.
That's we've heard that a lot lately. We got ballers in there. It seems to be the theme of the San Diego Padres clubhouse. And we opened the show with it talking about, the record is not ideal. It's not what you want. You've spent a lot of energy to get there. You got a lot of players banged up. But, man, the general consensus in that clubhouse is that we are together, we believe, and we are ballers, and we can win baseball games. And they've proven that. They have absolutely proven that they can beat really good teams. Not that the Nationals are a really good team, but they're nipping at your heels for sure. But you've beaten some really good teams this year. And, you know, it's those stumbles against some crap teams that have set this team back. And had they handled business, you know me, I don't like to go back and try to jam the toothpaste back in the tube. It never is going to work. I don't like to go back and lament trades that were made and people that got it. There's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. It's just a fool's errand. I can't let myself think about the Angel series and the Rocky series and where we would potentially be. We would have that cushion, Ben, to be able to withstand Fernando Tatis Jr. being out, Manny being hurt, Profar's having bad knees, you know, Darvish being out, Musgrove being out. I get it. I absolutely get it. It hurts. It hurts me too, but onward and upward. And the belief in that clubhouse, these guys are finally together, you know, after a couple of years. Now, listen, one thing we do know is that exciting moments breed they breed closeness. You can't help but feel close. You could hate each other, and you keep winning games like that, you're going to grow to at least appreciate and respect each other. We have seen this team fall off the cliff at times, and that's what we have to avoid.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be that way.
It should.
But it sometimes takes a few big moments and walk-offs to build that camaraderie, and unfortunately, last year's team just never got it. They were good enough to, you know, they were probably good enough to get where they wanted to get to, but because nothing good ever happened for them, to them, and that's their fault as well. You got to come through in those situations, but there's also luck in baseball, and because they didn't get any of those good, lucky moments to build some of those good feelings, it just kept snowballing into worse and worse feeling as the season went on. Obviously, this year has been very different than when things have had a chance to go well. Many times they have gone well, and it turns just into a different atmosphere in the clubhouse for the team with basically mostly the same players. Yeah, a couple different guys.
Jackson Merrill's been a nice.
He's been definitely a
injection
big part of it.
of positivity and you know, tenacity and all of that. And you're right. They kind of waited around for chemistry to happen last year. This year it feels like they've made sure with some huge moments, Ben, to make sure that this team is together. They keep saying it. Like, don't worry, we're effing ballers. Like, that's how we feel. I like that. That's what you want from your baseball team. You want them to believe in each other. But, it's exhausting. They're exhausting. They have to be exhausted right now, playing so hard to stay one game over 500.
Joseph in the chat says that positivity straight from Mike Schilt. And of course, he is a very positive guy. But I can't help but remembering that the 2022, as we said, was filled with tons of positivity under Bob Melvin.
Yeah.
And then in 2023 under Bob Melvin was not.
Right.
I tend to think it's less the manager and it's more the players and what's happening on the field. And it just can go one way or another. And so far this year, it's gone in mostly a positive direction for the Padres. Now, yesterday's game was very interesting. Remember yesterday's show, we talked about they need to get to Patrick Corbin. This is this thing against lefties, this continued struggles against lefties starting pitching. This is the day it has to end. And then they go out, score 3 runs in the second inning. I was all ready to tweet out, Luis Arraez, he hits that liner. I go, finally, for the first time, they have scored more than 3 runs against a left-handed starting pitcher. But Line drive found a glove, and it turns out they did not score another run against Patrick Corbin. He became the 23rd straight left-handed starter to hold the Padres to 3 or fewer runs, as he ended up going all the way through 7 innings, and the Padres could do nothing else against him after that second inning. In fact, 19 straight retired between the end of regulation
straight.
all the way to the bottom of the 10th inning. The Padres offense went absolutely
ice cold,
silent after that second inning.
That was vibes of last year. Get the early runs, and then the foot go. You put it in cruise control, and you're like, oh, we'll just grind this out and see if we can get a 3-2 win. And it just last year it didn't happen.
And also vibes of last year. They got a good starting pitching performance, this time again from Matt Waldron, but couple of defensive miscues, not ruled as errors, but the play that Ha-Seong Kim could have made, that could have been a double play up the middle, turned into a run. Jake's throw.
All right, so tell me, I go in to tuck Bo in. I come back, and I see a bang-bang play at first. I was too lazy to rewind it. I figured somebody would tell me. I missed the throw. What happened?
I mean, I know Jake.
Did he just spike it?
He didn't even spike it.
Did he lollipop it?
He bounced it through. It was a 3-hopper.
To him, in position.
So he had to run to his right.
Okay.
So he was kind of off balance
So
and
he
falling.
backhand.
He was kind of falling away as he threw it, and he got nothing on the throw. I mean, had he just taken half a second, gathered himself, and thrown hard, would have been out probably by a step or two. But instead, he kind of falls away.
Noodle-armed it?
And it noodle-arms it, and it bounces,
I saw the
bounces, bounces,
six-hopper over
and
there.
then finally gets there just a split second too late, and that ends up costing the Padres a run as well.
Yeah, well, remember early in the season, remember when errors were fatal for this team? They were fatal. We would make an error, next guy 2-run bomb. Fatal, fatal, fatal. That is a trend that cannot come back. Remember that? Like the first month of the season. Ha-Seong Kim would boot one, next guy 2-run homer. I mean, it was like every other game it would happen. That needs to be cleaned up for sure. And the Ha-Seong Kim play up the middle, look, nobody I know is making that play, but Ha-Seong Kim can make that play. It hit him square in the glove. It hit him right in the palm. He just booted it. And that's a double play ball easy because that ball was hit on a rope. Yeah, man, that stuff's got to be cleaned up for sure.
And then remember last year, again, they could not win an extra inning game, and, you just felt like it was heading down that same direction. They get the first 2 outs in the top of the 10th. Daniel De Los Santos holds that runner at second. And
I felt so good about that.
Okay, this is setting
really
up well. And then double, home run by Senzel. It's down 3, and now you're feeling like the game's probably over at that point.
Yeah, we're toast.
And then the bottom of the 10th inning happens. And it wasn't just, of course, Jurickson Profar's walk-off. A lot happened to set that up. It had to be David Peralta starting the inning with the double. Even though Jake only went to third, that got the tying run to the plate right away.
Now, what happened there? Like, how does Jake not score on that?
It
didn't really matter.
It doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't matter.
He's not the tying run.
Right.
He just can't be thrown out.
Can't be thrown out.
And
at home.
because he wanted to make sure it was caught or not, he just
forward, backward,
100% sure, and make sure you're not thrown out. That's the only thing that really matters on that play. So no problem with that. Jackson Merrill with another huge at-bat, the two-run single that gets the go-ahead run to the plate, gets the tying run on base. Ha-Seong Kim works a walk.
Yeah.
Didn't do much, but didn't swing at the bad pitches, worked the walk to get on base and move Jackson Merrill over. Then the decision to pinch hit Tyler Wade and lay down the very short sacrifice bunt.
1 inch.
Ended up working out. Got the runners over to second and third. There was Solano had the double, then Peralta popped out.
Oh, okay. So
that was unfortunate.
So I did see people upset that they didn't let Kyle Higashioka hit. And I know Higgy's been hot. I think going to Peralta for a sac fly there is probably the right move. It didn't work out. I was pretty bummed about that. That ties the game up. He didn't come through, and it happened. So that was kind of a bummer. What did you think of the bullpen management? I saw people upset again with Enyel being there, but I kind of liked Morejon ended up giving up a run, which has been, uncharacteristic of him. Estrada was fine. Suarez was Suarez. And I thought it was fine. You're going to run out of, they're trying to win that game. They're trying to win that game in those last couple of innings, and it just didn't get there.
I mean, it's who did they want to come in?
Right, in that spot.
It's Yuki or it's Wandy or it's Enyel.
or Enyel. Or Kolek.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys, and they all have sometimes come through and sometimes not come through. It's Russian roulette once you get past the first couple of guys in the bullpen. So
Mike wants to know what I thought about the bunt for a run by Kim. I'm absolutely fine with it. You know why? Up and out. You didn't give up and out there. So you guys know it's a hill that I am going to be punished on forever, and I'm fine to wear it. What's bugged me about this team at times this year is the hero of the night last night, Jurickson Profar in the 3-hole trying to sacrifice bunt in the second inning or the first inning makes me nuts. I'll be completely honest with you. That kind of stuff makes me nuts. Giving up and out. But in that case last night, Hassan Kim looking up going, okay, yeah, I can get
Kim
this
I was fine with. I actually didn't love the decision to bunt with Tyler Wade there just because because it's so obvious what he's going to do. You're giving the defense a pretty good advantage because you're sending up a guy when anyone with a Twitter handle can go, well, here comes the bunt.
I almost tweeted, Ben, why are you even taking warm-up swings in the on-deck circle? Just literally practice.
Gotta throw them off.
Everyone knows you're not swinging the bat here.
And that's not great. Now, he got it down. Good credit.
Oh my God,
enough.
it was a 1-inch bunt.
But when the defense can, with 99.9% of surety, know what's coming, that's good for the defense.
It's good for the defense.
It makes it harder to get your job done.
Well, and when Peralta didn't hit the sac fly, I was like, great. Now you've given up and out.
All right, that's set up, of course, Jurickson Profar. And when we come back, before we play Take on Woods, we'll hear some of the other calls of the walk-off. You heard Jesse's. We got Don. We got Spanish. We got what the Nationals TV broadcast said. And, of course, we have Korean.
Our Korean
as
brothers.
Well. All coming up next with Ben Woods on 97.3 The Fan. All right.
Woo.
We just went through the game, and we got to the big moment when Jurickson Profar is at the plate. Now, he takes a couple of strikes, swings, 0-2 in the count, and takes a fastball up and a little in, and hits the deck on the 0-2 pitch.
All right, I got that. I got trust tree. The trust tree. We're in the trust tree right now.
Yeah, nobody's listening. It's just us.
Just us here. I, in a real time, saw the pitch to Jurickson Profar and was like, I'll kill you. Like, I will what's his name? Hunter Harvey?
Hunter Harvey.
Yeah, I'll kill you. That was up in 97 miles an hour at a guy's face. I had the fellas in here because I'm technologically impaired. I said, pull that. I want to see where that dot is. Where'd that dot end up? Wasn't that bad of a pitch.
Because I told you, I was like, I mean.
And I go, shut up, dude.
Might have been a little bit of
I go,
a
no
dramatic
way. It was at
flare.
his head. I go, no way. That ball was at his eyes. And then I saw the mark.
I mean, obviously he does not want to hit Jurickson
Clearly.
anywhere. Head, foot, anywhere, because that brings in the tying runs. So
Clearly.
he's not trying to hit anybody. We know that.
Yeah.
And it was up, and it was a little in,
like
a little tight.
It was like a hair in. Based on the dot. Now, my eyes
But it was
told
hard,
me
and,
something.
it was hard, and up,
fast, and up. Yep.
And Jurickson reacted and went to the ground.
Good move.
And if it
Strategic.
inspired him, I mean, the at-bat continued, 4 more pitches, fouled some off, continued to battle. Scott Lewis, our friend, tweeted that Jurickson at-bat was a Rocky movie.
It really was.
It had ups and downs. It had a guy dusting himself off. I mean, it was this little story inside the story just itself. And it ends with the walk-off hit, which was, by the way, if you didn't realize it, we'll get to a little bit more, maybe, and don't do this, not a walk-off double, even though it bounced over the wall. I'll just leave it at that. It was not a walk-off double by Jurickson Profar. It was a walk-off single. And the call, as you heard Jesse, was amazing. But we have the rest of the calls
Here's
for
Jesse
you.
one more time.
Let's get Jesse again.
Profar swings, hits it in the air to deep right center. Thomas is back into the gap, can't get there. They're going to walk it off again. Merrill and Kim score, and the Padres beat the Nationals 7-6.
One of Jesse's best of the year.
Yep.
Solid all the way through. Just nailed that one. Then there was the television call with Don Orsillo and Mark Grant.
7th pitch coming up. Profar hits it towards right center field. Long run for Lane Thomas. Not going to get there. Up and over. 2-run score. And the Padres walk it off. How far will Profar send that one? Padres win in 10. Amazing! Amazing!
That's great. Yeah, if he had touched second, I would have won an extra hundo last night because I had Jurickson Profar over 1.5 total bases, and he got to 1.
So, yeah, he did not.
So the double doesn't count as a
didn't
double
go,
because he didn't touch second
celebrated
base.
before he got to second base, which means it's a single, not a double.
for going over the wall.
Why? It's a rule book double. It's a double.
But you have
He
to,
never
just like a home
touched
run,
second
you have
base?
to touch all the bases to get credit for it. And so it won't, yeah, I mean, Jurickson will get credit for the hit, but slugging percentage, he won't get he won't get the extra little tick on slugging percentage. Won't get the extra total base at the end of the year. Hopefully, it doesn't hurt his all-star candidacy.
I think he's fine
with that one extra base loss, but it actually goes down in the scorebook as a walk-off single
Hunter
by
said,
Jurickson Profar.
Hunter said, Woodsy down 169. Nah, Woodsy hit a 5-gamer last night. Woodsy's fine. You don't worry about your old pal Woods. I had money.
Woodsy's
to burn.
operating from the black.
Yeah, 100%.
From last night.
The drink's on me.
Let's
drink's
see.
I needed the Padres win to hit my 5-gamer, and I texted you guys. I go, you know how this is going to end. 3-run, down 3 runs. I'm like, son of a gun.
Before we get to the
cost me an extra $100.
Before we get to the rest of the calls, let me throw out the numbers for Take on Woods and your chance to qualify for the trip to Las Vegas. 833-288-0973. Call us now, 833-288-0973. Hold on for a couple of minutes for our game. All right, next up, the legendary Eduardo Ortega in Padres Spanish language radio.
Harvey tiene situación de salvamento. Se está enfrentando a Profar. Una vez de uno nada. Un elevado a la playa. Va lejos el jardinero. Va entre dos. La bola vuela.
Amazing.
Se va. Wow. En la barda. Un doble. Se acabó el juego. Ganaron los Padres. 7 carreras a 6. Dejó lo mejor para el final. La metió a la playa. Es Profar. ¡Qué momento tan glorioso! Dejan en el terreno los nacionales viniendo de atrás en la 10ª entrada. Perdían por 3. Han logrado 4 grandes carreras.
That man goes from 0 to 100.
I love it.
Real
I
quick.
heard,
Listen to the
I
beginning
heard
again.
playa a couple of times, I think, because it was headed toward the beach out there. Yeah.
Harvey tiene situación de salvamento.
Just cruising
Se está
down the road
enfrentando
right now.
a Profar. Una vez de 1 nada. Un elevado a la playa. Va lejos el jardinero. Va entre 2. La bola vuela. Se va.
Wow.
En la barda.
En la barda.
Like, just getting it, man.
Se va. En la barda.
It's a Hall of Famer right there, by the way.
I
Straight
100%
straight
my-
up Hall of Famer.
I have pushed for that. Eduardo Ortega, National Baseball Hall of
No
Fame
question.
broadcasters wing. Got to happen
No question.
in the next few years.
No
Absolutely. Absolutely needs
how
to
do we
happen.
get that going?
I don't know.
Right here, right now.
Maybe
Make it
Bob
happen.
Kendrick can put in
Maybe.
a
Put in a
good
word.
word for someone. He runs a Hall of Fame somewhere. Maybe he can put in a good word. But that was the Spanish language call. Now, you usually go with the Korean last, but I think I want to hold the Washington Nationals TV stuff for
hold
the
that
end because
one.
we've got some discussion to go with what the Washington Nationals were saying. So let's get to the Korean call of the walk-off by Profile.
자, 7구째를 쏘아 올렸습니다. 오른쪽인데요. 오른쪽인데요. 오른쪽! 떨어졌어요! 끝났습니다. 경기를 끝냅니다. 조릭슨 프로파! 조릭슨 프로파!
Always clutch. Always clutch.
Really fantastic. Now, Paulie, do we have the actual
So,
call of the Nationals
I
or
have
just
the
what happened
Nationals
afterwards?
radio call.
Okay.
And then I have what their TV broadcast said following the game.
No, give me the Nationals radio call just to hear their disappointment.
Everybody on their feet here at Petco. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Harvey sets and fires. Swing, and it's poked in the air, deep right center field. Thomas going back on the run. He can't get it. The ball bounces over the wall for a double, and the Padres win the ball game. 7-6 is the final. They mobbed Profar. He never reached second base as he bounced it over the fence. Just out of the reach of Thomas. The Padres score 4 times and win the ball game in dramatic fashion.
I wonder if the Nationals radio broadcaster also had Profar 1.5 because he pointed that out real quick.
He nailed that one. He is on top of that.
Hey, and that's a bad beat for anybody.
A little
Yes.
quirk on
Any
that
idiot.
on that ground rule single by Jurickson Profar. But then
Jurickson Profar turning a double into a single, just like I do. Just like I do on Sundays. That's amazing.
so Jurickson is mobbed. The celebration spills toward the third base dugout of Petco Park. And Jurickson is certainly enthusiastic. I mean, he's fired up.
Yeah, dude.
He said after the game, felt disrespected when they intentionally walked a rise to get to me. Was emotionally charged by taking a ball that was up and in earlier in the bat. So he was certainly fired up. But the demonstration, well, some people may have taken it a little bit. I don't know the wrong way, but certainly they noticed. Here's what the TV broadcaster said for the Nats.
And I tell you what, Bob, the Nationals dugout is not thrilled with the way that Jurickson Profar celebrated that walk-off hit. He went right towards the Nationals dugout and started screaming at them. And Ildemaro Vargas, Jesse Winker, Keibert Ruiz stood on the warning track as the Padres were celebrating that walk-off. Jurickson Profar not celebrating by looking at his teammates, instead screaming at the Nationals dugout for the intentional walk that loaded the bases, challenging him in that moment. So, some drama.
Clown. You fill your diapers when you blow a 3-run
Now,
lead
it
in
looked
the 10th.
more
I
like
get it.
Jurickson was kind of looking beyond the Nationals dugout to me toward the Padres fans.
When he hit first and he hit first and he ran around and he was beating his chest and looking at the dugout yelling like, bro, that's
not
But
up
he's
on the
looking.
string.
He's
in,
looking
like,
out toward
field.
left field. He's
Yeah.
out beyond third base, looking out toward left field. Now he's
That is
definitely
towards the fans.
definitely looking at the fans and not the dugout.
I don't and hey, at the end of the day, I don't care if he was. Good for him. Fire me up. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? It's baseball. You rest assured. If that happened to me or anybody I know, that would be the same thing. Like, it's a emotionally charged moment. You just came down. You're down 3 runs. You just won the game. Bases loaded. They intentionally walk somebody to get to you. Yeah, man. I'm gonna beat my chest. I'm gonna look right in your dugout and say, "Good call. Nice work. Well done." and let them have it a little bit. It's part of the game. The Nationals do it too. They were dancing around. C.J. Abrams was dancing around in front of the dugout after Senzel hit his homer. C.J. Abrams grinning into the Padres dugout after every hit he got. Give me an effing break. Turnabout is fair play. It's absolutely fair play. Nick Senzel screaming, running around the bases like he's Joe Carter in the World Series. Good for you. It's a huge hit. Have a ball. I'm glad our
we
guys
just had a bigger hit.
Yeah, I'm glad our guys didn't fill their diapers after. I'm reading radio host comments in Washington this morning. Oh my God, who's that? What's his name?
Snot and Storch?
No, not Snot and
They moved
Storch.
to D.C. Grant Paulson.
Grant Paulson says this morning. Grant Paulson from Grant and Danny on 106.7 The Fan. I'm assuming he's an Odyssey colleague potentially. He said Jerks and Profar pretended to almost die on 2 fastballs that weren't close to him. Then he trolled the Nats dugout while celebrating like he won the World Series. Must be a closet Dodger fan. Could be some drama in this series in the 2 days ahead. That was amateur hour. All right. I mean, amateur hour is also blowing a 3-run lead in the 10th, buddy. So I don't know what to tell you, Grant. But, game 1 goes to the Pods. Listen, as far as any payback or anything like that goes, I hate to say this. This is just me being completely honest. Padres are a good team to do it against because we certainly don't retaliate much. So if it does happen, I expect the boys to know why it happened. Mackenzie Gore's a really good pitcher. He throws really hard. He's got good command. You know exactly what happens if Mackenzie Gore goes up and in or dots Profar today or something like that.
Profar probably going to be batting second.
And I expect retaliation. I absolutely do because the guy celebrated after a monster hit against, again, a team that is right behind you in the standings.
Well,
if
there's one player in the Padres who isn't going to take anything, it's Jerks and Profar.
No question.
I thought you were going to say it's Adam Major.
That poor guy's like, son of a bitch, I just got called up and I'm right in the middle of this. Now, you want to earn your stripes?
It's an opportunity.
You can dot somebody before they dot somebody.
And the funny thing is if Major goes out and dots the first guy or whatever, warnings will be issued. It's actually the smart strategic play. If you're going to do it.
You take all control out of Washington's hands.
And then if Mackenzie Gore even goes up and into somebody, he could get rung. So, yeah,
Get the lefty starter out of the game early.
Get him out of the game.
Why not? Good strategy.
Get the opener ready to go.
It was awesome. It was an awesome win. Congrats to Jerkson. Huge dub last night.
All right, we'll talk more about this and the Padres injury situation coming up. Right now, though, let's play a little Take on Woods. All right, we got Mike standing by to play Take on Woods, which is brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. It only takes 15 minutes. You don't have to get out of your car. For directions and discounts, go to SoCalOilChange.com. That's SoCalOilChange.com. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning. Go Pods.
Go Pods. You're taking on Steven Woods today. We had Bo Woods in yesterday as well for a little extra game of Take on Woods. He crushed it. Let's see how you do in our 3 category choices. It's not false. Those are the opposite of false in your songs. We got Rick's Cafe, 5 musical artists named Rick. And we got Keep the Change, song titles and artists that include a type of coin in the name. Again, what you're playing for is the grand prize drawing, trip for 2 to the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, 2 nights, tickets to either Hootie and the Blowfish or Smashing Pumpkins, and a $150 poolside dining credit. Summer room packages, tickets available now at FontainebleauLasVegas.com. Which category of those? It's not false, Rick's Cafe, or Keep the Change do you want to play, Mike?
Rick's Cafe.
Rick's Cafe, okay. We are on the hunt for 5 musical artists, all named Rick. You have 60 seconds. Answer as many as you can. Then Woods goes. If you beat our time, we'll put you into the drawing. First question's the 2-second song. You need to give me the song title and then the artist. Again, his first name is Rick. To give me to get the point on that one. Mike, you ready to play?
Let's do it.
All right, 60 seconds on the clock. Your time begins when Paul plays our music. Good luck, Mike. Let's take on Woods.
Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up.
Correct. 1981 was a big year for which artist when he released the album Street Songs, including his signature hit Super Freak?
Rick James.
Correct. Which larger-than-life, booming-voiced rapper released his debut single with 2006 Hustlin'?
South.
Which Australian singer wished that he had his friend Gary's girl but changed the name to Jesse's girl in the song?
Rick Springfield.
Correct. Famous for the song Hang On Sloopy with the McCoys in the 1960s, which artist also had solo success with his 1973 single Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo?
Go back to the other one.
All right. Which larger-than-life, booming-voiced rapper released his debut single with 2006 Hustlin'?
Rick Ross.
Correct. Famous for the song Hang On Sloopy with the McCoys in the 1960s, which artist also had we ran out of time there, but you got 4. Hang on the line, Mike. That's a good score in the category Rick's Cafe. Rick Ashley, Never Gonna Give You Up. Rick James, Rick Ross, Rick Springfield. Rick Derringer was the only one you didn't get.
What was
I think
that last song?
Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
Thank you.
All right, let's see how Woods does. Interesting category. Mike's score is locked in. Let's go 60 seconds back on the clock. Your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck, Woods. Let's take on Mike.
That's Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up.
Correct. 1981 was a big year for which artist when he released the album Street Songs, including his signature hit Super Freak?
Rick James.
Correct. Which larger-than-life, booming-voiced rapper released his debut single with 2006 Hustlin'?
Rick Ross.
Correct. Which Australian singer wished that he had his friend Gary's girl, but changed the name to Jesse's girl?
Rick Springfield.
Correct. Famous for the song Hang On Sloopy with the McCoys in the 1960s, which artist also had solo success with his 1973 single Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo?
Rick Derringer.
Oh, and a 5-4 win in Rick's Cafe for Woodsy.
Rick's Cafe.
Very nicely done. Mike, good game. 4 was good, but Rick Derringer was the difference in the end as Woodsy hangs on for the victory today.
On our old show, when I first started in radio, we had Rick Springfield in studio.
Did you?
Yes, and he had written a book. And he came in to promote it, and it was awesome. I mean, sitting there talking to Rick Springfield, you're like, you're literally one of the most handsome men
I didn't know
I've
he was
ever seen.
Australian until I did the question.
He was like as cool as you could be, and stayed with us and chopped it up for like an hour. It was great. Great.
All right, no qualifier today. We'll try again with a new category added to the mix tomorrow. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back. Don't Do This is coming up next. We didn't get to it yesterday, but there was a major suspension handed down in Major League Baseball.
Interesting excuse for this one.
I didn't see this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting.
All right, we'll get to that and more coming up next after a check of traffic. Ben Woods on 97.3 The Fan. tweeted it out last night. My brain was slightly broken by our do this story coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Don't Do This is brought to you by the Craft Taco in Sereno Valley. Craft Taco is some of the best quality tacos in all of San Diego. Go to thecrafttaco.com. Take a look at their happy hour specials today. Crafttaco.com. What's?
You go first, actually.
Okay, I will go first.
Snell.
So you can view this as a don't do this from many different perspectives. But Blake Snell's first Giant season is, it's not going well. His latest rehab start, very poor. An inning and 2/3 for the Sacramento River Cats. 3 hits, 2 earned runs, walked 3, didn't record any strikeouts as he tries to return from the IL with a groin strain. But after the outing, he expressed frustration that he is feeling pressure from the Giants to return before he's ready. Quote, haven't felt like myself yet, told reporters. It's just, we need you. It's not like, let's get him right, and I have to deal with it. I want to be healthy and 100%, and I haven't been. I've just been fighting to rush back. So that's my take. I'm frustrated with that, and you don't get the product of what I should be, and it's just frustrating. Well, we know how he says frustrating. Yeah, I want to go out there and dominate and pitch the way that I pitch, but it's more important that I'm out there. What's your take here, Woods? Because,
man,
obviously he knows Bob Melvin. It's not like he's got a new manager who doesn't understand Blake Snell.
We know him. We know him. We heard the I'm not comfortable yet thing. Like, we heard that. But I think this is a health situation exacerbated by the fact that he did not throw at all because his agent told him not to.
I think it's clear he got a lot of bad advice.
He got a ton of bad advice in the offseason.
Sucks for him.
And the thing is, Paulie, is like, if your agent tells you just want a Cy Young, bro. I'm going to get
super
you paid.
Agent, by the way.
Your super agent tells you, we're going to get you paid. You're going to go to a place you love, and you're going to get your bag. Don't throw. You can only screw this up if you do anything, which I know for a fact happened. And Blake goes out and is like, okay, like I won't throw. And then it
sounds weird, but I'll trust you.
He misses a spring training. He can't get it going. Like, we know Blake Snell. We know him. He's not going to be at his best unless he's mentally there and physically there. He's not. He never was until he got healthy and right and comfortable and all that. Like, Farhan Zaidi should have known that when he signed him.
Or just ask Bob Melvin.
Bob Melvin knows this.
Bob Melvin knows all these things we're saying.
So what Blake is saying is true. There's no way that's coming from Bob.
I don't think so.
No,
there's pressure from fans, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah.
The GM that forked over $31 million.
They just know they signed a Cy Young Award winner and expect him to pitch like a Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
I would too. And if I'm a fan, I'm like, all right, I get it, but crap, dude, we need, like, again, they do need him. They absolutely need him. They're still in it as well. And you spent a lot of dough. You spent a lot of dough to get him. And look, ultimately, for me, it always falls on the player to be ready to go. It does. It falls on the player to be ready to go out and pitch and execute. But yeah, interesting. It's not great right now for Blake Snell and the San Francisco Giants and their fans. And it is what it is. But if you're a Blue Jays fan right now, you were really excited on Friday night. You called up your number 2 prospect, Orelvis Martinez. Got his first Major League Baseball hit in his debut against the Guardians, and then 2 days later on Sunday, got an 80-game suspension. He tested positive for performance-enhancing substance clomiphene, also known as Clomid. And so he gets the suspension, fails the drug test. He comes out and says, I take full responsibility for my actions. I accept my suspension. I want to apologize to my teammates in Buffalo, Toronto, the Blue Jays organization, the fans who supported me during my career. Said in a statement he had been prescribed a fertility drug by a doctor in the Dominican Republic during the offseason that resulted in the positive test. So, I knew a little bit about Clomid before. I looked it up. A lot of women use it to treat infertility. Women do not ovulate. The women that can't ovulate, they take Clomid. For men, it boosts your testosterone, and it helps your swimmers swim better. But so,
do they prescribe anything in the Dominican Republic that doesn't have steroids?
Bro, that's the thing is, like, again, it's going to fall on.
Tatis has a rash. Steroids.
It's going to fall on. It's always going to fall on the players, right? To make sure there's a whole protocol involved. It's hard to. You're talking about different cultures and everything else. It's hard to it's hard to. They try to make it easy by saying, "Hey, these are on the banned substances list. If somebody tells you to take this, you have to check it with us.
Your team
first.
doctors are there.
They're there for
to
a
check
reason.
everything.
Yeah, so
and
he's.
I know he said he wanted to keep it super private. Even family members.
Family members
didn't
didn't
know
they were trying to have a kid or whatever.
Bro,
But look, and if that's
your team
the case,
doctors aren't going to post it on Instagram or whatever.
yeah, if that's the case, sucks. I mean, but again, it's you did the crime in this instance. You did the time, whether you took it knowingly or unknowingly, it still falls on you.
You got a toothache, nandrolone.
Yes.
You've got an upset stomach, stanozolol.
Clostebol,
this is what we do in the
Winstrol.
Dominican Republic.
Yeah, it's tough,
steroids
man.
cure everything.
It does. I mean, it's tough. Like I just if it increases testosterone, they're going to get you. They're just gonna get you every time.
Finally, a little doo-doo this
DD Mega Doo-Doo.
from our great Tier 1 and former NIL-sponsored collegiate golfer, now professional golfer on the Japan Tour, Steve Sugimoto, who's back home recovering from an injury,
an injury on his
unfortunately.
hand, yeah.
Hand injury. But that allowed him an opportunity to go to the game last night. And Steve stuck it out to the end. He's obviously sitting, looks like behind home plate in the upper level of Petco Park. And he's filming a video during the final at-bat of the game. And this broke my brain because obviously this is happening and unfolding live in front of him.
In real time.
There's no special effects. There's no camera tricks. It's just a cell phone video, and you'll be able to hear the audio of Steve just kind of calling this right as it's happening.
All right, I just got the notification. Clarkson profile walk-off.
I just got the notification.
And here's the pitch.
And he looks on the field, and there it goes.
So we'll start with Toddy.
So my question here is, obviously he couldn't have got, now we've all done that where we're watching a game on TV and because the feed is a little slow.
Happens a lot.
You get a notification about what's about to happen before it actually happens.
Somebody at the ballpark is setting that notification as it happens.
Yeah, or someone texted you and they go, my stream hasn't caught up to that yet. You saw it before I did. It's happened to everyone. He's actually sitting in the ballpark. There's no way he could have gotten a notification about Jurickson's walk-off before it happened.
Jurickson profile walk-off.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No,
you
you didn't, Steve.
You couldn't have. You're
So
watching it right there. It's live. It's not on a monitor.
And there it goes.
Like we're
Loses
still probably
his mind.
probably another minute to 2 minutes away from the notification actually being sent.
So good.
I want to know. Did he do that for like 7 straight pitches?
Now that would be a good bit.
Until it finally happened, or was that just the one and done, and it just happened the moment that he decided to hit record on his camera?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it was just like, hey, he had that feeling. You get that. I had the feeling earlier when I told Hannah, I got up to brush my teeth. I go, Higgy ends this with one swing, and he did. And you just get those weird feelings throughout the season. Oftentimes they're wrong. Stevie felt it last night. I'm gonna choose to believe that that's the first take that he did, and is in fact a prophet.
So come by the studio. We'd love to see you.
I tweeted him last night. Get your ass in here.
Great. All right. Good. And that's Don't and Do This for a Tuesday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
Just quickly from Mark in the chat, he asked for a shout out for my friend's 19-and-a-half-year-old dog who unfortunately is going to the final vet visit today. Puggle named Mershak. 19 and a half, though, is...
that's a life well lived.
That's a life well lived for a Puggle.
Shout out
to his family.
Shout out to his family.
Shout out to Mershak's family.
We'll have another one, too.
Yeah,
Coming up at 8. We got another shout out to his family we have to do.
All right, we'll be joined by Bob Kendrick, who is the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. The passing of Willie Mays. When we come back, you don't want to miss that conversation. He is fantastic. That is next with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Padres fans, let's make sure the Padres represented in Texas at the All-Star game. Well, let's just make sure Jurickson Profar is there. You can help by voting up to 5 times per day at Padres.com/All-Star. Voting ends this Thursday, and they had the ad during the game yesterday with
Don't
Kyrie
disappoint his son.
Profar begging.
It's incredible.
Begging for you to vote for his dad.
You know, and it would be one thing if it was like, hey, man, like, you're not having a good year. We're not just going to vote you in because your kid wants. He's having a phenomenal season.
He's an all-star.
He's an all-star. So I really don't have any doubt that he's going to get there, but let's make sure. He
does continue to lead in the latest updated voting, so it looks like he's definitely going to get to the finals of the voting after the voting closes on Thursday. But again, you can go to Padres.com/All-Star again through Thursday for the preliminary round of All-Star voting. A couple of quick stats here before we get to Bob Kendrick here in a couple of minutes. Some stats from comparisons from last year, and this is from the UT this morning. So the Padres now have 3 extra inning wins this year in 3 games, 3-0.
3-0.
Last year, they had 2 extra inning wins in 14 chances, 2 and 12. And both of those came in like the last couple of weeks of the season, the last 2 opportunities. They now have 10 one-run wins this year. They're 10 and 12. Not great, but better than last year when they had 9 all year. 9 and 23 in one-run games.
God.
They have now 6 times come back to win from down 3 or more runs. That only happened 4 times all last year. Remember, we're only halfway through this season. They've already done it 2 more times than last year. They have 16 wins when they've trailed or been tied in the 7th inning or later. Only had 18 all of last year. 5 walk-off wins, had 2 walk-offs all of last season. And they're now 18 and 13 in games in which they've lost a lead, where they had it and then lost it. They were 18 and 33 in those games last year. So quite the stark difference between 2023 Padres when it comes to these tense games and the 2024 Padres, who've been completely different.
I love it. It's great. It's aging me incredibly, and all of us. But I'd rather have this than a bunch of L's.
And the other unique thing is that next week will be the 55th anniversary of the only other time in Padres history that they gave up 3 or more runs in an extra inning and then came back and scored more than that to win. They gave up 4 on July 5th, 1969, their first season to the Astros in the top of the 12th. Scored 5 in the bottom of the 12th to win 9-8. Hadn't happened again until last night when they scored 4 in the bottom of the 10th to beat.
God, it's insane. Insane.
The Washington Nationals.
How long can it go, man? How long can it last?
All right, let's check traffic. When we come back, we're expected to be joined by Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, talk about Willie Mays and more next year on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by California Coast Credit Union. Got a crash involving a motorcycle northbound 15 just before Arrow Drive. Looks like a pickup truck involved in this one as well. It's in the center divide. Also going to find on eastbound 8 just past the 125 collision over to the right shoulder. On the coastline, South 5, an accident cleared near Cannon. Got this other crash before Poinsettia. It's been cleared over the right shoulder. They're saying there's an accident on the Poinsettia off-ramp as well. So, yeah, you might see a little confusion there. Get 9.5% APY rate on a 5-month certificate for a limited time at Cal Coast Credit Union. As we celebrate 95 years in the community, $500 minimum balance. Restrictions apply. Insured by NCUA. Visit calcoastcu.org/celebrate. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Saw a nice moment last night up in the Bay Area. The San Francisco Giants all wore number 24 to honor Willie Mays. Ended up getting a walk-off victory in the bottom of the 9th inning against the Chicago Cubs. Of course, saw the amazing show that MLB put on last week at the Rickwood Field game in Birmingham, Alabama, Willie's hometown. And one of the guests there that day is joining us right now. He's been on the program before. He is a treasure trove of baseball history and knowledge, and it is a pleasure to welcome the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, Bob Kendrick, back with us here on Ben & Woods 97.3 The Fan here in San Diego. Bob, good morning to you. It is great to have you back on.
Good morning, and thanks so much for having me on the show.
You've been a very, very busy man over the last couple of weeks. We had talked about trying to get you on, and Paulie, our producer, said, hey, he can only come on Tuesday. And I said, fine, absolutely. We'll take Bob Kendrick anytime. You've been very busy telling stories and doing all the things that you do. Obviously, a huge, tremendous loss to the baseball world, losing Willie Mays. What a career, what a life, what a man he was. What is your number one favorite Willie Mays story, Bob?
Well, it's a story that he shared with me directly, and I was able to share that on air on last Thursday on the Fox broadcast. But I'm out in San Francisco in 2016, and Brian Murphy, who is a big-time radio sports talk show host there in the Bay Area, had set up for me to come out and speak to a group of kids out in Mill Valley, California. But the day that I arrived, they were having a memorial service for a former San Francisco Giant pitcher. And so all the greats were there. Willie's there, Orlando Cepeda, Felipe Alou. They were playing the Florida Marlins, and Barry Bonds, who was coaching for them, he was there. But anyway, they arranged for me to have some private time with Mr. Mays. Now, this is one of those pinch me kinds of moments. I get private time with Willie Mays. And so we're down in the players' garage, and Murph asked him, he said, Willie, did you ever face Satchel Paige? And fellas, Willie lights up like a Christmas tree. He says, yes, I faced Satchel. I faced Satchel when I was 17 years old. And the first time I faced Satchel, I got a double off of it. Well, Satchel didn't know who this kid was. He threw him a little off-speed something. Young Willie Mays hits it in the gap, gets a double. Satchel steps off the mound. He looks over at the third baseman and says, hey, man, you let me know when he comes back up again. A couple innings later, here comes young Willie Mays back in the batter's box. The third baseman says, hey, Satch, there he is. Satchel looks at him and says, son, I ain't going to try to trick you. I'm going to throw you 3 fastballs. Now, Mr. Mays, even at 17, he's thinking to himself, you going to throw me 3 fastballs and I know they're coming? Willie said, he threw 3 straight right by me. I never saw him. And on the third pitch, Satchel, by the time he releases the ball, he's halfway between the mound and the batter's box. And Willie said he's turning to go back to the dugout, and Satchel looks at him and says, now go sit down, little boy. And
That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable because he is arguably the greatest major leaguer of all time.
Yeah.
I think he
remember being struck out by Satchel Paige.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, Bob. We talked about, obviously, the numbers were there. The man was 5'10", 170 pounds, and played the way that he played with the power that he had. It's staggering career.
Well, it really is because he seemed much larger because he felt like he was larger than life. But when you look at that 5'10", 170, the man was absolutely chiseled.
Yeah.
You know, and he wasn't lifting any weights. He was just doing what country boys do, you know, all that hard work in the field, and he was just ripped. And he just had some God-given ability. But I don't want that to diminish the cerebral aspect of Willie Mays brought to the game. He was a very astute ball player. And so Bob Costas and I were talking, and Willie would say himself that he made the easy plays look hard and the hard plays look easy because baseball was entertainment. You were going to be thoroughly entertained when you watched Willie Mays play. And he was the consummate 5-tool guy, but you're right, 5'10", 170 pounds of dynamite.
It's unreal.
Talking to Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and Willie Mays hit his 600th career home run here at San Diego Stadium and finished, of course, with 660. Not quite Babe Ruth, but a lot of people were pointing out, Bob, this last week, he played his games at the Polo Grounds and then at Candlestick Park, 2 of the worst places for power hitters, especially right-handed power hitters. Had he played in a more friendly environment, for his 20+ years, I mean, where would he have been, Bob, in home runs? I mean, number 1 all time?
Well, he certainly would have eclipsed Ruth's 714 prior to Henry doing it. There's no question in my mind. He was averaging almost 40 home runs a year. He lost nearly 2 years to service fighting in the Korean War. And so, yeah, there's no doubt that he would have broken the record first. who knows what that home run total would have been, because he did miss a couple of prime years there during his wartime. And yeah, but it just fills my heart with joy when you start to think about names like Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, Ernie Banks, all members of the 500 Home Run Club, all come out of the Negro Leagues.
No question about it.
For those, for those who sometimes doubt the validity of the talent that was there in the Negro Leagues, they are just three examples of that immense talent. They were three young players who transitioned into Major League Baseball who became big stars. I know it's hard for people to understand, but there are guys who were better than Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, and Ernie Banks that didn't get that opportunity.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. I know we only got a couple minutes left. Talking to Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. We were talking about last week with the game on Thursday night in Birmingham, and then, of course, there's been, and you run the Negro Leagues Museum there. Do you feel there's been a really strong resurgence lately? And I know, kids love video games, right? And they put the Negro League players into MLB The Show, and now young kids are getting into it as well. I had that when I was a kid. I learned about it, and now it feels like there's this really cool resurgence happening, and more people wanting to know about it.
And I couldn't be more happier. That is exactly what we hoped would happen when we started this museum way back in 1990. When I first met Buck O'Neill, one of the first questions I posed to him was, Buck, what motivated you to want to build a Negro Leagues Baseball Museum? And his answer was, so that we would be remembered. And that's been our mission from the onset. And it's beautiful to see all these milestone moments happening in and around the Negro Leagues, and that the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum certainly has had a hand in making these milestones occur so that these players are not only being remembered, but their legacies will play on through this museum. And the fact that young people are learning about these players, but not only learning about them, guys, they're falling in love with these players from the Negro Leagues through a video game, which was the biggest thing this museum has ever done. Was how do you bring the Negro Leagues to life? You put them in a video game.
Of course, before you go, you want to celebrate the good and remember all the great athletes. But I thought at the Rickwood Field game, the most powerful moment was Reggie Jackson, and I'm sure you saw the video, even if you didn't see it live, of him telling the real story of what it was like to play back in the South in that day. And I don't think I ever kind of really realized it the way he put it, though, and how hard it was for some of those players trying to integrate the game of baseball.
And you figure, you hear Reggie tell this story, and I'd heard Reggie tell that when he came to visit us here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. This is in the late 60s and 70s, guys. This is about 1947.
Right.
And those black players were still experiencing many of the things that Reggie shared. They were painful and difficult to hear. But as I relate that story, there was a former Negro Leagues player named John Mule Miles. Former Tuskegee Airman, lived in San Antonio. And he had a classic quote relative to their testimony. Because sometimes people believe that when you tell your story that you're crying, that you're complaining. And that was so far from the case. As he would say, I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining. This is what happened. And this is part of my story. Now, everybody didn't handle it the same way. Because if you talk to the majority of the Negro League players, and they went through even far more than what Reggie alluded to. But they just seemingly never allowed their hearts to be hardened with hate, and they were never bitter about it. And they just seemed to rise above whatever social circumstances that were put in front of them. Now, that doesn't mean that they liked the things that happened to them as they were traveling the highways and byways of this country. They didn't. And they shared those stories. But they also wanted you to know the joy that they had in playing this game. And to me, that's why the story of the Negro Leagues, I believe, is one of the greatest stories in the annals of American history, because it's about the ability for the American spirit to come in and persevere and prevail.
Bob,
they never cried about this.
Bob, so powerful. Really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. And if anyone gets a chance, I can't wait. I've never been to Kansas City, but can't wait to get an opportunity to visit the museum myself. Appreciate your time this morning.
anytime when you come out, the ribs are on me.
Well, that's even another incentive to head on out. Bob Kendrick,
the best.
president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. We're a little over time here, but we'll come back, reset everything
Never get
on
enough
a
time.
Tuesday morning. Yeah, fantastic stuff on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We'll be right back.
Woo, a very, very spicy one last night at Petco Park. Been talking about it all morning. We'll continue to talk about it all morning. That's what we do here on Ben and Woods. Thanks so much for being here. We are halfway home on a Tuesday, June 25th. And I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl, the executive producer. Benjamin R. Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor, joins us as well. I was watching the Stanley Cup Game 7 last night, and it was incredible game. I kept it on until the Padres started, but they went to commercial, and there was my beloved Ben, a little promo for you. Did you see that?
Yeah, I've got the me standing in front of Petco
you
Park.
Look so handsome.
You know, looking like I'm delivering some sort of sportscast.
Yeah.
But in essence, they told me to stand there and just pretend like you're talking so they could get a good shot of me.
Yeah, it's great. Sports with Ben Higgins. I'm like, I know that dude. Look at you in the Stanley Cup Finals, man. Did you watch some of that game?
I did. I watched a ton of that game. It was
Crazy.
I had multiple TVs going. I had the College World Series going on. Had a Tennessee crowned champions for the first time ever. The Florida Panthers crowned champions for the first time ever last night, winning the Stanley Cup in dramatic fashion. So it was a very busy night for me at work.
Yeah, it was a busy night at home, man. It's things are nuts right now. We've got camps for days, and it's just nuts. Like summer Uber driver dad, clinic after camp after clinic. It's always fun when you book them. You're like, that's gonna be great. There's so many activities for them to do, and then you realize they're 6 and 3. They can't take themselves. So you actually have to go and then sit and be there in the scorching heat. You're like, we didn't think this through. Really. Like today, I'll get out here. I got to go to SEALs camp and watch Bo and bring Bo home from SEALs camp. Then go to Frozen Ropes after that for practice.
Wow.
It's busy. It's a
long day.
Busy
Day.
little beaver. So Dad Summer Uber is in full effect.
Before we move on, I want to thank Bob Kendrick again for coming on and sharing some of his Willie Mays knowledge and stories with us. And I wanted to just say, because I saw someone pointed out in the chat, when I talked about kind of being surprised by Reggie Jackson's comments, obviously I've seen the Jackie Robinson movies. I know how ugly it was when the color line was broken in baseball and baseball was being integrated. I didn't expect to hear that story from Reggie Jackson, though. I consider Reggie Jackson like a ball player of my childhood, like a totally different era. Like I know it wasn't perfect, but I didn't realize that even players in, like, as Bob said, the late 60s going into the 70s were facing such hatred.
Well, bro, it's 2024. Let's not act like that's still.
It's not. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, that's like stuff from like a movie, essentially. That the stories that Reggie Jackson told were incredibly moving, and I thought important for people to hear, important for me to hear. Obviously, that reminds you that any progress that's made is always very slow and very difficult to get where we want to be.
It's one of my biggest regrets, that flat tire I got from Wichita for multiple reasons. But the flat tire I got driving from Wichita to Kansas City on my way to the Negro League Museum, got a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and stuck, for a few hours on the side of the road. And I made it in time for the Padres-Royals game. Did not make it in time to go to the Negro League Museum. Had to turn around after the game and come straight back to Wichita to fly out the next day. One of my biggest regrets, man. I don't know when I'm going to get to Kansas again. I have no idea. So I was really, really bummed to miss it. I was planning a good, solid 2 to 3 hour visit.
Also, question for Paulie. During that Bob Kendrick interview, is that like what it's like working with me, what Woods did to Bob multiple times, jumping in and trying to interrupt him and ask a question? Because
I thought he was done.
Yeah, that's what I do all the time. And I don't feel as awkward when I'm doing it. But when you're doing it, I was horrified.
Yeah, now you know how it feels. Now you know how I feel.
Is that how it feels when I do it?
It doesn't change for me.
It's so much worse
when
it's so much worse when you're not the person doing it.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
how I felt for the last 6 years.
Now I know.
Yes,
I can put myself in your shoes and how horrifying it is.
Yeah,
because I was embarrassed.
You get those guys. I mean, at least I didn't ask him about a heart attack he didn't have. You know what I mean? Like, that's right. But like,
what kind of moron would ever do
100%.
that?
So, Bob, how's your heart attack? That wasn't me. It was the other guy. He has a cadence. People have a cadence and they stop, and you're like, is he done? the uncomfortable silence between questions is all. So you want to try to keep it moving. But
It's a lot different if they're in studio or even on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, I mistimed the cadence, and it happened. I was up till midnight, thanks to Jerks and Profar's heroics. Literally up till midnight, laying in bed going, I can't sleep. How am I supposed to sleep? Ambien didn't work. I'm just sitting. I fought through it. The Ambien, I went through it. And now...
How late do you go before you're just like, I'm just going in early?
I mean, you know me.
1 a.m. is my cutoff. Because I've had, like, I guess not insomnia, but trouble falling asleep. I mean, if I'm laying in bed from, call it 9 to, like, 11,
yeah,
I might switch it up. I might go lay on the couch, change the scenery. Maybe that helps. And if it's like 1 a.m., I'm like, I'm just pulling an all-nighter. I'm just going to go and work early.
I've been here at like 2:30 in the morning before. I mean, it just happens. We have a weird house. My wife gets up early to do whatever she does. And so I'm up early a lot, and I hate it. But last night, it was nothing other than just being extremely fired up. Now, I made the mistake of, after the walk-off, going on Twitter, X, whatever. That's the mistake. Because then I saw Jesse Winker in the stands essentially screaming at a fan. So that got me all fired up. Then I saw the Nationals, what they said at the end of the game. We still have that, Paulie? This is after they win the game. The Nationals broadcast, we're talking about it.
And I tell you what, Bob, the Nationals dugout is not thrilled with the way the Jerks and Profar celebrated that walk-off hit. He went right towards the Nationals dugout and started screaming at them. And Ildemaro Vargas, Jesse Winker, Keibert Ruiz stood on the warning track as the Padres were celebrating that walk-off. Jerks and Profar not celebrating by looking at his teammates, instead screaming at the Nationals dugout for the intentional walk that loaded the bases, challenging him in that moment. So, some drama.
Yeah, so I made the mistake of watching that. Well, then my blood pressure starts to rise, and I get that defensive mode of wanting to defend our guys and looking at trying to see it from their side of the fence, and I couldn't really see it because I had also watched the top of the 10th, and I watched C.J. Abrams all night. I watched Nick Senzel, running around the bases screaming like he had just hit a walk-off in the World Series. Good for you. Big hit. Clutch knock, 2 out, home run. You got a 3-run lead. Bro, I fully understood it.
And I'd imagine anytime C.J. Abrams comes back and does something against the Padres, it's going to feel extra good for him.
Yeah.
Anytime you face your former organization and have a big game, and he was on fire yesterday. He's been playing real well this year.
So that's what screwed me. I need to know I need to remember. We walk it off, just put the phone down and go to bed and try to go to sleep then or put a movie on or something. But I sat up there stewing all night till about midnight.
Put it on sleep mode.
I was gassed. I know. I couldn't do it, man. I'm an addict. It happens. You do what you do. But I was all charged up. Couldn't wait to get here this morning after a win like that. But yeah, man. The interesting thing is, and we'll see if anything spills over into today. A good night's sleep is always good for everyone. I mean, if you have an argument with your wife or your partner or whatever, your teammate, give it 24 hours, see what happens, right? I don't think Jesse Winker is going to be as pissy today at 6:40. I don't think Mackenzie Gore or Davey Martinez or Keibert Ruiz or any of the guys that he just mentioned. I don't think Jerks and Profar is going to be as fired up today at 6:40 as he was last night. Right? Like 24 hours can do a lot.
And
now,
as we said, we didn't think Jerks and Profar really looked like he was directing much toward the Nationals dugout. Now, he admitted
he felt disrespected.
He felt disrespected by the walk.
Which is fine.
Which fires him up.
Yeah,
I mean, he takes that as motivation and uses that. That's great. But I didn't get the sense that he was like legitimately mad at the Washington Nationals. He was probably secretly pretty happy that he got that opportunity. Yeah. He's 4 for 4 with the bases loaded this year, by the way.
Yeah.
And they'd all be extra base hits if he had bothered to touch second base last night as well, which he didn't. So it ended up being a walk-off single instead of a double.
And again, you're talking about two teams that are pretty much neck and neck right now. San Diego Padres certainly cannot afford another guy to get injured, right? I mean, wouldn't it be our luck for something to happen? Somebody goes out and pulls a hammy or something, in a fight. But I will say this, man, like, if they have any issue with that celebration, that's pretty tired. That's pretty tired if they do. That's a huge moment in a huge situation. Again, the pitch up and in to Jerks and Profar knocked him down. To come through in that at bat was pretty clutch. I don't want to see anybody hurt, certainly, but I certainly don't want to roll over again for another team. If they have a problem today and they want to go out and dot one of our players, I certainly hope that we retaliate and handle business. But I don't want to see us do anything to start.
And the other reason why last night's game was so important is that you don't feel as confident about today's matchup with Adam Major. I was last week ready for him to go back and get some more work in the minor leagues.
You were ready
for you, Darvish, to come back.
You were ready for him to go do DoorDash for a living.
And now,
really were.
And now he's back to make a fifth start today against Mackenzie Gore, who's been solid for the Nationals all year. This is a tough matchup for the Padres. They'll need guys to come through again. They'll need some offense in this game. I don't anticipate Adam Major going and tossing 7 innings of shutout ball today. It's just unrealistic based on what we've seen so far. So you lose that one. Now you're putting yourself in position to lose the series. Now you have a chance to steal today's game, and you can go for a sweep tomorrow in the homestand finale.
Yeah, I mean, look, tonight's going to be a tall order. It really is. And when Patrick Corbin, holds you to 5 hits, and Derek Law, I feel like Derek Law has been pitching since I was in high school. When he came out last night, I went, this guy's still around. I had no idea. He's just one of those guys that's been hanging around forever. He's only 33 years old. I looked it up because I thought, this man's 46 years old. I feel like I'd seen him forever. When those guys sit down 19 in a row on you, holy cow, man. Like, that needs to be addressed. That needs to be talked about. They certainly don't get a pass for that. 3 runs cannot be where you take your foot off the gas against a guy like Patrick Corbin, letting him get in a groove, bend, and retire however many he did, along with the bullpen's help. It was 19 at one point. That doesn't work.
We got Jesse Agler coming up at the bottom of the hour. If you'd like to contribute and incorporate a word, you can submit it in our YouTube stream or via our Twitter handle at Ben and Woods. We need a vocabulary word for Jesse for tonight's broadcast when he joins us at 8:35 this morning. And I want to go through, we haven't really done so yet, the roster moves, what they all mean, what the Padres did yesterday, because they made a lot of them coming up in our next segment. But I know you wanted, before we went to break, you had a shout-out that you wanted to do here.
Yeah, we need to do a shout-out to his family. Saw the news come over this morning. If I told you Shifty Shellshock passed away, would you have any earthly idea?
None.
None
Zero.
whatsoever.
Never. That's the first time I've ever heard those 2 words put together in a sentence.
Now, Paulie, do you have the song? The song?
I do.
Okay. What if I played this for you?
Anything?
It's not ringing any bells yet. Nothing.
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 I don't think so, no. What era are we talking about here?
I mean,
Was that like early 2000s?
he passed away at 49 years old, so he's our age, essentially. So our era, the era of us.
Right, but musically, was he
Our era.
Okay.
He's the same age, so it was our era.
He's a musical artist.
Yes. He was the singer frontman for a band called Crazy Town. #1 song, and it was in 2000, the year 2000. And passed away, 49 years old, cause of death unknown. He had struggled a lot with addiction in his life and career. Just kind of a one-hit wonder band, but that song was massive, 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 massive. And he passed away. You know how we do it here on Ben and Woods this morning.
And I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So, shout out to his family.
I ran into Shifty Shellshock in Los Angeles. I was actually
ran into him.
Yeah, literally. Was going to see Jason Isbell play in L.A. and was outside the venue, and he walked by, walking his dog, and
You recognized him?
Oh, immediately.
Okay.
I mean, the video, you couldn't get away from Butterfly. You just couldn't get away from it. It was everywhere you went. Come, my lady. Come, my lady. And yeah, I did. Roastmaster said I did not have the CD. I just heard the song on the radio like the rest of you. There's your old pal Woods and Shifty Shellshock, the streets of Los Angeles. Yeah, man, it was. He was a really nice guy, super cool. And 49 years old is way, way too young. Way, way too young. So rest in peace. Shout out to your family, Shifty.
I'm sorry that I still don't really know who you are.
I can't believe he's never heard that song. Doesn't ring any bells.
Not even. I mean, Crazy Town, the name, Shifty Shell Shock, the song. I just must have missed that year.
I guess they don't play it at sporting venues, so you
Apparently
would have missed
not.
it entirely.
Just missed that year.
I feel like
they do.
That was the main. I feel like that was the main song for the San Diego Strike Force.
Ooh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I feel like Burt Grossman told us that because he loved that song.
So he picked it. Of course
he did.
So great. So great.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, go through some of the interesting roster moves the Padres made yesterday, and then Jesse Agler will join us at the bottom of the hour for the Incorporator. All coming up.
I wonder if he was a big Crazy Town fan. My
Jesse?
guess is no.
Jesse's like me.
My guess is a hard
right over
no.
his head.
Yeah.
All coming up next after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. I'll be honest, yesterday was shaping up as one of the very low points of the 2024 year for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
Had they ended up losing that game, combined with the pretty bad news they got before the game involving multiple players, you would have looked and gone, wow, this is a tough one to swallow for the San Diego Padres. Of course, we mentioned Fernando Tatis Jr. earlier, and going on the injured list with the stress reaction in his right femur. That's the biggest bone in your body. It's the big one under your quad there. And all year long,
Fernando bone-splaining to me?
Bone-splaining, yeah. All year long, Fernando Tatis Jr. thought he was dealing with a muscular problem, but it turned out it was deeper than that. And finally, they got the imaging a couple of days ago that showed the stress reaction in that leg. And Tatis spoke after the game and said it's really bothered him since Korea and really got bad in the first series at San Francisco, that first couple of weeks of the season. And he's been dealing with it ever since. It's a sharp pain. Recently, it started to radiate. He feels it throughout his entire body, especially when accelerating and decelerating. He can kind of run, but then when he tries to slow up, it just absolutely bites him. Or when he's trying to speed up, it really, the shooting pain comes up through his leg. It was very hard to deal with, and ultimately the decision was made. In order to get it healthy, he's going to have to spend some time not doing all those things that he does when he plays baseball, like flying around, sprinting around the bases, and playing the outfield. So no Fernando Tatis Jr. And while Mike Shildt was it's probably more than 10 days, Fernando Tatis was no, this is definitely several weeks type recovery, certainly through the All-Star break. And it sounds like even possibly beyond that a little bit if he really wants to get 100% healthy, which he will. It's something that you will recover from. Doctors say it's no long-term concerns. He just needs rest, and he'll be fine. But that rest can be anywhere from 6 to sometimes up to 14 weeks to get it completely healthy, which is quite a bit longer than you got the indication of when the Padres first made the announcement yesterday.
Man, I don't know what to say about it. I mean, I saw the comments yesterday. It just, listen, it doesn't seem like everyone's on the same page. Is that safe to say? It just doesn't seem like they're on the same page.
Messaging-wise, I assume that Mike Shildt is the one who sets the page. Maybe he doesn't explain to Fernando Tatis, hey, we don't want you to say you're going to be out for more than a few weeks, but
he did.
So, it was pretty obvious, even with Shilt's comments, that they picked this now, knowing they only have 16 more games before the All-Star break, a number of off days, and the All-Star break that, hopefully you miss as few games as possible because you've got, 9 of those days you're not even playing baseball. And you can sit through those 9 days plus the 16 and get at least 4 weeks right there with only missing basically, 2.5 weeks worth of games.
Yeah, the comment he made before the game, Shildt, he said the day before we got the absolute diagnosis, he went first to home with some of the most beautiful, artistic, athletic movements you'll see. He looked like Tatis. He looked like Ben or me running the bases that night. Remember that? The ball?
Well, he looked bad. When he slowed down at the end, he looked like he was in agony.
Bro,
when he goes fast, he says he's okay. It's when he's decelerating or accelerating that it's really the hard part. And he can hit. Obviously, he was on fire at the plate.
Yeah.
He can hit, no problem. It's just the running that is what really causes. So when, Mike Shildt said he could have pinch hit, he can. Like Kirk Gibson, he could have limped. Gone up there. He can swing. You just don't want him necessarily then having to run around the bases. Can you do the whole adult league non-runner? And
Yeah,
you just
great.
have someone sprinting out of the box for him.
You're looking
be great.
You're looking at one. No, you can't. They can't sprint out of the box for you. But once you get to the base, you can time non-runner. You walk your ass.
I've seen where they have a line where someone stands there. At fantasy,
they do
camp,
that at fantasy
They did that
camp,
where you just have someone standing there.
Yeah.
And as soon as he swings the bat, the other person then runs to first base.
Yeah.
They won't. They won't do that.
Why did we do that? Because somebody was injured.
Injury.
Yeah, you can't do that in the big.
Or we had girl on our team was a paraplegic.
Yeah, she had one leg. So,
but she
they had-
batted, and
she
then
batted.
someone else
Yeah,
ran.
Yeah,
Can we
so
not do that for Fernando Tatis Jr.?
It's not allowed.
It's good for the game, though, to keep the stars in the game. They should consider amending the rules to keep him out there as much as possible.
I mean, I'm here for the non-runner rule all day. The last out then has to go run for you. I'm all about it. I think it's great. But no, it just. Listen, no team is completely forthright when it comes to injuries. I've kind of gotten used to this. Again, it's one of those things for me, and I'm just speaking for myself. When I see the injury stuff come out, I'm like, all right. I mean, onward and upward. I mean, what are you going to do? What can I do about it? There's nothing I can do. I can't even be mad. I can't, lament it. I can't point fingers. I just go, okay, next man up. We're going to have to figure out a way to win ball games. And luckily they were able to last night. You wonder how long that luck's going to hold up, though, and
they're going to miss him at some point.
Bro, yeah.
There's a game where other guys won't come through that he would have come through if he had been there. That's inevitable.
Anytime you lose, your best player, one of your best players, if not your best player, it's going to be it's going to sting a little bit, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible to go out and win baseball games without him. They've done it before. They've done it to great success without Fernando Tatis Jr. before. It's not something I want to get used to, though. So him being out potentially past the All-Star break, that stings a little bit.
Also find out Yu Darvish is not coming back today. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So Adam Mazur is coming back, and we'll get another start.
That was concerning as well.
Of course.
Was it elbow?
Yeah, elbow inflammation. So we'll see. He said he was fine after his last start, but obviously this popped up between the rehab start and now. So no Yu Darvish today. And then Jose Azocar was sent down to AAA as well, according to Mike Schilt, to get some at-bats and work on his game with Bryce Johnson, who played last night. I know very little about Bryce Johnson. He's been in the big leagues before, but very limited experience. And then Eggy is back as well, and they're going to try to work Eggy in the outfield a little bit to try to get his bat in the lineup, especially against left-handers, since he is one of the guys from the right side of the plate who hits lefties well, something the Padres don't do well.
I think you see Eggy today, certainly, against Mackenzie Gore. No question about it. Don't know where he's going to play. DH
possibly even. And,
but Jerkson's a decent DH candidate as well. There's again, guys are banged up playing through stuff. So
and Johnny Brito sent down to work on becoming a starter and stretching out.
That was interesting.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes some sense.
I mean, he's not providing a ton of value as the last guy essentially in the bullpen, but you need starting depth, and if he can provide some of it, I think that's a more valuable use for Johnny Brito right now. All right, we'll come back. Jesse Agler will join us. He got to call the walk-off last night, voice of the Padres, the Incorporator, all coming up next here with Ben Woods on 97.3 The Fan. goes 0.
0. We are
That's
literally
the
coming
music.
back right now.
We are coming back now. We've got Jesse to talk to. Got to get an incorporator to get to. If you can't hold it for the entire segment, I don't know what to tell you.
I
Woods.
don't have a choice at
You
this
can
point.
go right now, and we can just
No, it's all right.
just vamp until it's time. But yeah, we're back, and we're getting ready for Jesse Agler. He's going to be with us right after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Viejas Casino and Resort. Crash involving a motorcycle blocking the 3 left lanes northbound 15 just past Adams Avenue. This is causing huge backup not only on North 15, but that northbound 805 transition to the 15. Southbound side of the 805, an accident near the 15. This one's got the fast lane blocked. Cordell and Cordell traffic cam shows this collision on eastbound 8 past the 125. It's over to the right shoulder. The daily jackpots at Viejas Casino and Resort are on fire. Players have hit huge wins with bets as low as 50 cents. Check out their jackpot winning smiles on the Viejas Facebook page. Want to join them? Who knows? The next jackpot winner could be you. Viejas Casino and Resort. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Paulie says Jesse's going to call in just 1 second here. As a play-by-play guy, walk-offs are your chance to have signature moments. You know those are the kind of calls that get replayed into the future. Last year, Jesse had almost no chances to do it. You're a whole summer long with 2 walk-offs the entire year.
It's terrible.
And now what? Padres 4 in the last 7 home games.
Yeah.
They've had a walk-off ending. 3 on home runs, 3 straight on home runs, and then, of course, last night in extra innings. There's just been a lot more drama to the baseball season this year. Last year was shockingly at least positive drama-free for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
Shockingly so.
Shockingly.
This year?
Historically, almost. Yeah.
This year, it's been a different story for the San Diego Padres, and there has been moments. There's been several memorable, significant moments, that have taken place already, and we're just barely halfway through the season.
Paulie's working on getting Jesse on the line
what's going on
right now, but people in the chat, he's not going to say Hawk Tua, okay? They're like, I'll donate money to the Peter Seidler Fund. You should do that anyway, number one. He's a professional broadcaster. He's not going to get on the air tonight and incorporate Hawk Tua into the broadcast. He would get in trouble, I think.
We have a great word for him.
We do.
But that's not it. That's actually 2 words, so.
Yes, you're right.
That doesn't even work.
It's a
2
phrase.
total different words. All right, looks like we've got him now. Let's go out to
monsters.
Jesse Agler, who joins us right now after last night's 7-6 10-inning victory over the Washington Nationals. Jesse, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're doing well. I know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask it anyway. When you were in college, did you ever pull an all-nighter, like studying when you were at University of Miami?
Not studying, no.
Oh, not studying. Listen to him, not studying. What a legend that answer was. Is he coming in okay? We got him?
Jesse, you there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're cutting out. You're cutting out a little bit.
It's not working.
Try it again, Paul.
Jesse,
Oh, yep.
Let me try calling you back.
Jesse joins us from the worst cell phone reception.
Yeah, it's fine.
Well, Orange County a few weeks ago was bad, and now it's bad again today.
Yeah.
It's all right. Why did you think did you think he had or had not done it?
No, I thought he absolutely had studied, like staying up all night writing a paper.
Because
studying.
why?
Well, because I feel like everybody pulls 1 or 2.
I never did one.
Well, you didn't?
No.
Never.
So when you actually do the work and are prepared, you don't have to do an all-nighter at any point.
BFD,
You get rest before the exam. You don't have to stay up all night preparing. You feel good. You go to bed at a reasonable hour. That's the way it should be done, Woods.
I mean, I was an English major with 4 senior-level English classes. I had 20-page papers due. You can't. There's not enough time. Now, I pushed all those till my last year, right? So I had a big load, and I had to manage said load. And so sometimes you have to stay up all night writing papers. What I want to ask him, though, so you don't even know, Paulie, you pulled an all-nighter, right?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Do you remember that feeling that you had when you finished your test, your final, turned in your paper, whatever, when you're walking back to your apartment or your car and you're in a daze, in a trance? This team feels like it's on one long all-nighter right now for the last week. Like they have, their heads have to be spinning, with all the emotion, with all the the grinding that they've done. You can't grind that much and not be exhausted. And that's what I want to ask Jesse Agler about.
Okay, I can see your at least comparison there.
Paul, you know what I'm talking. Remember that feeling?
See, I was a procrastinator. I would wait until the last minute and just cram.
You walk outside, the sun's blazing, you have not slept, you did your final, and you're walking to your car, and you're like, strangely, I feel very alive right now. I feel very alive. Yeah. My emotions are at the skin. You know, I can feel my nerves.
I'd take some Adderall. I'd be done at like 4 a.m. with my paper or whatever, and I'd clean the kitchen.
Do a little workout in, do whatever. I know, man.
It's funny because people think that people who don't procrastinate are somehow doing it because they're just very responsible human beings. I don't do it because I hate the feeling of feeling like I'm not going to get something done in time. It's so stressful when I go down to the last minute. I don't ever want to put myself in that situation. I want to always know that if worse comes to worse, I have those last few hours that I have a cushion that I don't need, but if I needed it, it's there. It's always there in reserve. So that's why I don't put things off until the last possible second.
You know what's weird about me is that I'll be 2 hours early for stuff, right? Which is the definition. It's the opposite of procrastination, like psychotically early. But when it comes to, hey, I got a paper due or I got this test, now I need the pressure sometimes to like make me perform.
See, now I would never want to be 2 hours early. I value efficiency so much. And I feel like, okay, I'm not planning my day very well if I get somewhere 2 hours in advance.
We got it. My whole point of that, Jesse, was asking you, when you pull an all-nighter, if you turn in a paper or, do your final, that feeling you had kind of walking to your car where your nerves are exposed and you're like, man, this is nuts, like sleep deprivation. I feel like that's what the Padres are going through right now with all this grinding that they're doing to stay one game over 500. It's been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, they are a resilient team, and I think that's been pretty apparent early on. And look, a lot of teams say that, but I think particularly after last year and kind of the way everything went down and how much they struggled in one-run games and extra inning games and all that, it was really important to try and establish that early this season. And they did that. They came out of the chute with a couple of really big comebacks in April. They had the crazy game against the Dodgers in Seoul where everybody was hitting. And it just kind of felt, coming out of that, like, all right, this is a different team. And I think that was a nice way to sort of, turn the page from last year because, and look, as we know, every team is different year to year. Like the reality is last year, when it comes to that kind of stuff, doesn't matter. And you can back that up with a statistical argument. RISP last year has no bearing on RISP this year. So we all kind of thought, all right, it should be better this year. But to sort of like psychologically get over the hump and be able to have the success that they had earlier this season. And for, I think, Mike Schilt to talk about it as much as he's talked about it and to make a point about it as much as he's made a point about it really helped, this 2024 team say, all right, last year is last year. We're all about the windshield and not the rearview mirror.
But we also talked earlier about it's kind of a catch-22, that there's nothing you can necessarily do. You have to experience some success to build that positive feeling. And last year's team just never got to experience it. So, of course, they never were able to really build some of those feelings and, good vibes going forward because it just didn't happen for them.
The crazy thing is last year, end of the year, right? They have like their good run. They win 5 in a row or whatever at the end of the season. They win an extra inning game in San Francisco, then another one game, 162. And all of us, myself included, kind of wrote that off as like, all right, well, it didn't matter because, they were essentially all but eliminated for most of that run. And they were eliminated for a good chunk of it at the end. So it was kind of like, all right, throw it away. It doesn't really mean anything. And, I made note in spring training a couple of times that last year, this team with Jerks and Profar on the roster at the end of the season went 16-5. And I kind of said it like tongue in cheek during the spring training broadcasts because like, hey, that's kind of cool, right? And there's like a story there, but we all know better. It couldn't have just been because Jerks and Profar showed up. That's not why they won 16 out of their last 21 games last year. But, kind of what you're saying, there is a different vibe and it's very hard to say he isn't a huge part of that. And look, you're absolutely right. You have to go out and get the hits. You have to get out and do the thing. But, sometimes there are guys, that make a big difference, in tangible and in intangible ways. And it's getting harder and harder to think that Jurickson Profar is not one of the best examples of that when it comes to this Padre team and this Padre clubhouse. And so I'm loving the attention he's getting nationally. I'm loving that he's leading the way in all-star balloting because it is so deserved, from the raw numbers standpoint and what he's produced this year, from the way he's sort of battling through this knee situation to obviously the impact, which I think is gigantic, that he's had on this team.
No question about it. Talking to Jesse Agler, voice of the Padres. You can hear him tonight, 97.3 The Fan, along with Tony Gwynn Jr. Another one is Jackson Merrill being 21 years old. And now, honestly, like, he's a leader. And we talked about the message that you're hearing coming out of there. Last year's message was essentially, oh, don't worry. We'll get there. We'll be where we need to be. This year's message is, don't mess with us. We're a bunch of effing ballers. They've said it. They've called themselves ballers so many times that I'm like, they actually believe this. And when you watch them play, yeah, man, they have those games where you're like, oh, man, who wants to face these guys? They're just relentless. They don't quit. It's pretty apparent that Jackson Merrill is another one of those guys in that clubhouse at 21, first taste of the big leagues, and now is, a regular that people are like, should we extend him another 12 years? It's been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to have extension talks for a lot of kind of obvious logistical reasons.
Right.
But he's playing his ass off, and I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying watching Jackson Merrill, like way more than I expected. Just sort of the natural. All right, he's 20 at the beginning of spring training. He turns 21. Let's not expect too much. Let's hope for the best. But I mean, he's exceeded every expectation I've had in every way. And he is a great kid, and he's a dog, as you're talking about, man. He's up on the top railing of the dugout. He's intense. Yep. And I think that whole thing goes to a conversation about roster construction that sometimes gets a little bit put off to the side. Usually when we're talking about roster construction, we're talking left, right. We're talking power, contact. We're talking whatever. But there is something, I believe, when it comes to roster construction that should involve personality.
Oh, yeah.
And, kind of having not necessarily just the right mix of guys, because that's a little bit difficult, but a mix of guys who have different kinds of edges to them. I think everybody understands the way that, a team will sometimes take on the personality of its leadership and how certain guys will, follow other guys. And that can be good and bad depending on the person and the situation. Sometimes you need personality A, sometimes you need personality B, sometimes you need personality Y. And that's the good thing is you've got different sort of versions of that in the Padre clubhouse. And I'm not suggesting Jackson Merrill is leading the way at 21 years old, but I tell you what, the energy that he brings, the intensity that he brings, the ability that he brings, it's all contagious, and all that stuff matters. And that can get other guys riled up in a good way. He has been a critical piece to the success this team has had. Very similar to Profar, right? With kind of that, high energy, intensity, and attitude. Jurickson always looking to create a chip on his shoulder over something, and it helps him. He's one of those guys, and it is really, really fun to watch. Let me say this about the 2024 team, and I know everybody in town knows this because people have been showing up like crazy. You're not supposed to have 39,000 on a Monday against the Nationals, okay? It's incredible every single night out there, but this is a very watchable baseball team. Not only because of the comebacks and the sort of you feel like they're never out of it thing, but the energy and the excitement that those guys play with. And on top of that, they don't strike out anymore. It's remarkable. This is a team that struck out like every other team, basically a ton, the last couple of years. And it's all of a sudden the switch got flipped this season. They're putting the ball in play. They're just a more entertaining team to observe than they've been really, I think, at any time since I've been here, which is saying something because there's been some cool teams. But this year's team is so fun to watch. And they're just kind of doing it a little bit differently than so many of the other really good teams.
Top batting average in baseball. They'll lead the league in bunt hits as well. And they hit home runs, so they can do it in lots of different ways. It is entertaining. You're absolutely right, Jesse. You mentioned Jurickson's motivation and the near hit by pitch, the intentional walk to put him up. And he talked about it after the game. Now, do you expect any fireworks tonight after what you were kind of hearing from the Washington Nationals?
Oh, bless you.
Yes.
Excuse me, Washington Nationals in the dugout at the end of the game.
Wow, that was an all-timer.
You okay over there?
We don't know.
I haven't quite been the same since our golf tournament last week.
He's dying.
How'd you play?
We didn't play at all.
We didn't. We just
entertained for an entire day.
Shaking hands, kissing babies, buddy.
That's nice. Congrats. Good job.
Thank you.
Was there a question there?
Does he expect any fireworks tonight?
Ooh, I love fireworks.
I mean, No, I mean, you never know. But, I mean, McKenzie is fiery. Remember that. He tried to fight his third baseman in the dugout a couple weeks ago. He's on the mound for the Nats. So he definitely has at times, and he's admitted to this, kind of let his emotions, get to him. But he's a pro. Like, I don't know. I mean, what are you guys expecting? Like, what am I missing here?
I don't know. I mean, the way the Nationals TV broadcasters were describing the reaction from guys like Jesse Winker and Keibert Ruiz, they were really unhappy with Jurickson's celebration after the game.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I think we're at the point in baseball now where, you get a walk-off win, you got to expect all kinds of craziness. And if the guy gets knocked on his backside, what is it, 2 pitches before the game-winning hit, he's probably going to be a little bit fired up in that moment. You never know in baseball. I don't have a great sense of like how the Nats handle stuff. We haven't seen them since last summer. So, maybe that is kind of the way they like to go about business. But I wouldn't think, there's a reason for it. Look, they're a team like the Padres who are, very much in this, early season playoff conversation. If I'm the Washington Nationals, I'm not trying to get caught up in something like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to win another game or two here because all of these games against these teams that could be in the wild card match, really important. Remember tiebreakers now, head to head. So the 3 games that they're playing here, the 3 games that they'll play in Washington after the All-Star break, could be, if the Nats hang around the playoff picture all summer long, those could end up being like critically important games for both of these teams. So that's my perspective. It would be like, hey, you got to, worry about trying to win a game, not, being upset that somebody was happy that they won one.
We got a little behind on the technical difficulties, so let's get quickly to the incorporator word for today. Paulie's got it for you here, Jesse.
Bivouac.
Bivouac. You probably heard that before, right?
Oh, yeah, every day.
Yeah,
Every day.
Every day.
Easy one for you.
Bivouac is a temporary encampment without tents or cover used by usually soldiers or mountaineers. A bivouac.
Sure, yeah.
A bivouac. You've got a lot of temporary shelters out on a baseball field. That should be no problem for you tonight. Jesse, good luck with that.
I've got one in my head, and we'll see what we can do.
All right,
thanks,
there you
buddy.
go. Listen tonight, 6:40 first pitch with Tony Gwynn Jr., 5:40 Eco Water SoCal pregame show. Thank you, Jesse.
Hey, guys.
Jesse Agler. Now we got him nice and clear by the end there. Let's remember whatever that took to get him sounding that good in our incorporator segment.
What happened to you?
I have no idea.
Can't wait
no
to
idea.
relive
It
it.
felt like I had some nut skin, but I haven't eaten any nuts in my throat. Reindl Report coming up next. Can't help but thinking that if I was a fan of the Colorado Rockies, I might be a little perturbed by Jurickson Profar's 2024 season.
Yeah,
He went and signed, about $8 million as a free agent in Colorado last year, where he proceeded to, at least by WAR, be perhaps the least productive player in all of baseball last year. Yeah. And now he comes back to the San Diego Padres at, an eighth the price and proceeds to be the best outfielder in the entire National League this year.
I mean, the guy is born to play in San Diego. I hate that he even left. I do, when we're sitting around lamenting things, and I try not to, I do often think about what last year would have been like had he been here. Because again, you talk about the Jesse just talked about the way they ended the season, when they got him back. What if he had started in spring training with these guys? What could have happened?
It goes to show you, though, as Jesse was kind of talking about, that chemistry is not simply a matter of getting good ball players with good attitudes all in the same room. It has to mix well together, because Jurickson Profar had zero effect on the Rockies last year.
None whatsoever.
He's the same guy.
Same
I'm
dude.
Sure he came with his same passion and smiles and fiery attitude. But mixed with that team, it did nothing. Somehow mixed, though, with this Padres team, mixed with the specific personalities of Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado and the guys in this clubhouse, it seems to be like magic waters for the San Diego Padres.
And not even for Jurickson Profar, too, right?
True,
I mean, for Jurickson Profar,
it's
there's something about here that he loves playing here. This is his, how they always say, well, certain guys are made for New York or Boston or Philly. Jurickson's made for San Diego. He is a fit here in San Diego. He was a good player in his other stops, but when he's here, he plays differently.
And sometimes it's not even good players who end up being that guy. Jorge Alfaro is not a good player.
No.
Wasn't even really a good player in 2022. He just kept coming up with huge moments. Remember, he was such not a good player that they wouldn't even use him once in the postseason. Ever.
Austin Nola out there, he's like, I'm catching again.
It's not
really.
It's not like they were putting Johnny Bench back there every single day. Well, we just can't get you into the game, Jorge Alfaro. It was Austin Nola that they were using every single day because they had so little confidence in Jorge Alfaro.
I mean, to do anything. Pinch hit, even. Nothing. There were times I'm like, just use him now. I don't care if you hate him. He's on the postseason roster. What the hell happened?
And yet his magic was an undeniable part of that 2022 team.
And part of the reason why you got there, why you got as far as you did was Jorge Alfaro. And I wonder, had Nola pulled a quad, what would they have done? Crony back there behind the dish? Like, what in the world was that all about? We can look back at it and laugh now, but it was really, really weird. But yeah, man, you never know when you're gonna hit on one, right? And with Jurickson Profar coming back, couldn't be happier for the.
Now that you think about it, Bob Melvin had twice. He had Alfaro in the playoffs, and they had Carpenter for a month, where he just refused to use a player on his roster.
Yeah,
if that wasn't a sign that there was maybe a disconnect between AJ Preller and Bob Melvin. Hey, AJ, I'm giving you this player. Bob's going, I'm not using that player.
I'm not using him.
Not playing You get to pick the roster, but I get to set the lineup, and he's not going to be in my lineup.
Every single day it was, is Matt Carpenter healthy, available? Yeah, he's available to come off the bench. He just rotted. He rotted here for a month. It was crazy. So, yeah, who knows what that stemmed from. You have your ideas. You have your theories. About what went on there, and Alfaro is the story that I've heard 1,000 rumors, but I don't know any of them to be true.
I think of the scene in Moneyball where he wants to keep playing. Who is it? Jeremy Giambi at first base, or
no? It was Carlos.
No, Carlos Pena at first base. Yeah, Carlos Pena is not playing first base for you. Why? Because I just traded him.
You can't play Pena.
You can't play Pena.
That's too bad because I am.
Also traded Giambi. You're killing this team.
Jeremy's gone too.
Jeremy's gone too.
You've got control of the lineup, but I've got control over the roster.
Just trade all the guys that you want to play that I don't want in there.
All right, let's get some other headlines. It is time for today's Reindl Report. And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report. with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
on 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a oh yeah? Oh yeah.
All right.
All right.
All right.
All right. Before I get started, do you want to hear Ben again?
I mean, I've been waiting for it more than anything. He tried to.
Right.
Yeah, he tried to vamp.
Just
and,
jump right
yeah,
in.
maybe.
distract.
Jerks and profile, right.
Brother, we got plenty of
We
time.
got plenty of time. We got 55 minutes.
That's always my problem. There's
If-
always more time to fill.
If
with
you
my,
missed
my
it,
mistakes.
This was about 15 minutes ago with Jesse Agler on the Zoom hotline.
Do you expect any fireworks tonight after what you were kind of hearing from the Washington Nationals?
Oh, bless.
Yes. Yes.
Excuse me,
yes.
Washington Nationals.
Yes.
Doug,
God, he just plows through too. Wow, excuse me. Just
you were
like
kind of
Hacksaw.
hearing from the Washington Nationals.
Not quite. It was good.
Kendrick Morales with a home run.
You were
Vladimir
kind of hearing
Guerrero
from the
had
Washington
hits
Nationals.
along the way.
Oh, bless.
And the Angels batting order. Just, excuse me, wore out the Red Sox pitching staff.
Like, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than that. Nothing makes me happier than that in the world. My kid, my kid can hit a home run. I think that's better.
To Nationals.
Well, can you slow it down?
Washington Nationals. Washington Nationals.
This is amazing. I'm crying. There's tears in my eyes right now. You did your own Hawk Tua. That's what that was. You feel better now?
Yeah, I felt fine 3 seconds before it happened. It was instantaneous.
It's
Washington
just
Nationals.
right there. You feel it?
Usually, like for 10 seconds, you can go, "Uh oh, here it comes,
Here it comes,
It
here it
was
comes, here
just
it
like
comes.
right there. It was just instantly back of my throat. It was there, and there was nothing I could do about it.
That's so good. You're like, I got to get through this question right now.
God, it's
Holy
incredible.
crap, that's so good. Save that forever.
Washington
Forever.
Nationals.
How do you put that on a T-shirt? That's what I want to know. We got to find a way. Holy
All right,
cow.
let's dive into it, gentlemen. We'll start off in the world of hockey. The 2023-2024 NHL season came to an end last night. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Florida and Edmonton. Edmonton with all the momentum climbing down from their 0-3 deficit, forcing a Game 7. But Florida had just enough to get by. They won 2-1 last night. Watched pretty much all the game. I watched the whole first period, and then I switched over, had that game muted with the Padres game on the main screen. But, 2-1 Florida. Pretty good game, man. Overall, I didn't see a whole lot of the rest of the series. I don't want to tell you it was chippy, close games or anything like that, but last night's game was great. And then I firmly believe the Stanley Cup, the tradition that goes along with the Stanley Cup. I watched the trophy ceremony at the end, how every guy gets to hold it and do a lap around the ice and kiss it, and then they pass it on to their teammate, and the team just sits there and watches every single guy get their moment. I thought it was awesome. Here's how it sounded on local radio in Florida, the final seconds.
10 seconds left. 2-1 Panthers. A dream 30 years in the making is a reality. The Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup. Lord Stanley is coming home. You always will have a place in South Florida. Oh my God. The Panthers have won the Stanley Cup for the first time in franchise history.
Oh, wow.
Start the celebration, South Florida. The Panthers have done it. Stanley Cup champions!
Is it a drunk fan just walk into the booth?
Grab a mic.
Grab the mic.
That's the Woods of the crew right there. Holy cow.
This is exactly how I imagine Tony Gwynn Jr. acting when
Yeah,
Jesse
right?
Agler finally makes that call.
Yes, the Stanley Cup is coming home to Sunrise, Florida, where it's always belonged.
Yes, where it's always been 30 years.
Where the kids grew up on the frozen ponds of South Florida, dreaming of a Stanley Cup title.
Have won the Stanley Cup for the first time in franchise history. Yeah!
It's incredible. Incredible. It was a great game. Yeah, Connor McDavid, though, is going to be seeing his missed opportunity in his dream.
Oh, God.
Right? I mean, that
Missed opportunity, but he was acknowledged as the best player.
Man.
In a very rare situation, Connor McDavid won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the most valuable player, despite the fact that he was on the losing team.
Yeah.
Now, it's for the entire postseason, so the argument was definitely there that Connor McDavid was the best player in the NHL playoffs. But we live now in such a, it's all about the winning team sports mentality that it's becoming much harder to justify giving a player on a losing team the most valuable player award. How valuable could you have been if your team didn't actually win the title? Isn't someone on the winning team more valuable because their team got the whole way?
Yeah, and, he didn't come out to get it, which I totally understand. I totally understand that. I don't.
On the road in front of the other fans.
I have no desire. I just lost, and we just battled back. Yeah, man, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
There's only been one Super Bowl MVP from a losing team. Dallas Cowboys linebacker Chuck Howley intercepted 2 passes and recovered a fumble in a 16-13 loss to the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl V.
My aunt Brenda dated his son.
Really?
Scott. I went to his
Scott
home.
Howley.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Super Bowl MVP. One time in the NBA, Jerry West, they talked about it in Winning Time, 1971 NBA Finals MVP, despite a 4-3 loss to the Boston Celtics that year. And it's never happened. Oh, it happened once in baseball, too. Bobby Richardson in the World Series in 1960 hit 367 for the Yankees with 12 runs batted in, including a grand slam, but Yankees lost in 7 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So it does happen very rarely, but mostly way back in the past, not modern-day sports, where the losing player gets the MVP award.
Well, that's it for the hockey season. The new season begins actually this weekend with the NHL draft.
No lag there, buddy.
And I saw this was pretty cool. I might actually need to tune in and just see what it looks like. They're going to host the NHL draft from the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Great move. Great move.
Amazing move. That's going to look super cool.
Rarely does the NHL outshine like the NBA or NFL and such things, but how the NFL didn't come up with that already.
Oh, I know.
Damn
I have no idea how they missed that opportunity.
All right, we'll switch over to some local sports news. I would say pretty surprising news, I thought. The San Diego Wave announced that they have parted ways with head coach Casey Stoney. The club made the announcement yesterday. Paul Buckle is going to serve as the interim head coach. They issued a statement. They said, "We are immensely grateful to Casey for her commitment to our club and the positive impact she has had both on and off the pitch." That was from Jill Ellis. "Over the past seasons, Casey has guided us to significant milestones, and her contributions have been instrumental in laying a strong foundation on which to build. The decision to part ways was very hard and not made in haste, but given the ambition of this club and where we are in our season, we felt the change was necessary at this time."
So obviously we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but certainly from the surface level, last year they had the best record in the NWSL, although they lost in the semifinals and the playoffs. This year, they're near the bottom of the standings, but they've dealt with a ton of injuries. Alex Morgan and other players have missed several games. They've had trouble scoring. In soccer, feels like that's not uncommon, that teams go through droughts where they just can't get the ball in the back of the net. They've outplayed opponents and just haven't scored to win. That's not necessarily a coaching failure when your team doesn't finish off. You've got good plan, everyone's in the right position, they just don't score. I don't necessarily blame the coach for that, so I was a bit surprised. Now, it also comes, I don't know if you saw this, Casey Stoney went off after her team they didn't lose, but they 0-0 tie on Saturday in Houston. She absolutely ripped the entire league for the scheduling of having to play 3 road games in like 8 days in 3 cities, wrapping up in Houston where it was like 100 with like 100% humidity for her players going. No other team has had to do this. What we just across the country, 3 East Coast, time zone games. this is not fair to my players. They played their heart out. Yeah, they didn't score, but I was so proud of them. And he said, this is unacceptable, this kind of scheduling in the league. And then she gets fired a day later.
Boy, I mean, you wouldn't want to fire a coach for defending their players.
No,
right?
I don't think so.
In perfect world, like you said, we don't know everything that's going on behind it. I didn't see a lot of mixed reaction about this. I didn't. I saw mostly support for Casey Stoney, and in fact, I saw her tweet last night to the Sirens, who are the support group for the Wave, and she said, "Thank you, Sirens. You're incredible. I loved your support for the team from day one. Today, I'm broken, but in time, I'll be proud of what we all achieved together. Cheer the players loud on Friday. That's what they deserve." Pretty class move by now former coach Casey Stoney.
Only coach they had ever had.
Finally, this is a bit of almost like an AITA, am I the a-hole story. A woman online said that she filed for divorce from her husband, and the reason is...
What'd he do?
Well, he over-tightened every jar in their house.
Come on.
And it got to... She hit her breaking point. So,
was it like a deterrent for her? Was she snacking a lot?
She says, I know this doesn't seem like a big deal, but every jar in the house is over-tightened to the point where he has to be home to open any of them. It's so annoying. When he's not around, I can't get anything done. She says she confronted her husband about it many times, and it would get better for a little while, and then just slowly would become an issue once again. If he was not home, she would have to regularly, like, let's say there's a half full jar of sauce or whatever. She would have to go get a new jar because she could at least open that one if he wasn't home. And then she says the nail in the coffin was that she discovered that even the jars that he never would have opened,
right,
those were over-tightened, meaning he was doing it on purpose.
What is he doing?
And over-tightening every jar, not just a habit. He was doing this intentionally. She went crazy. She said she lost sleep over it. She had a breakdown to the point where she vomited and felt like she was having a heart attack. So she called it quits.
I think I'm team her on this one. That's a weird thing for a guy to go in and start tightening jars.
Was he doing it, I mean, like, did he use the jar and then when he just tightens things, he tightens them really tight?
Because he just said he would go in and do jars of stuff he wouldn't even use.
He just would go in and just... Now, was he using just his hands, or was it like mechanically? Was there something like, really getting a good grip on it and turning it?
He was just going and just tightening it. And she said that one time her husband was out of town, so she asked the neighbor to come over, and even he couldn't undo some of these jars.
What is your secret for opening a jar you can't?
You smack on the side of it with a spoon. You go all the way around.
The butt of a butter knife or something.
I take the tip of a butter knife and I put it up into the seal, and you hear the thing pop up, and then you can open it. You know that trick? You know what I'm talking about? You go kind of under the lid.
Under the lid.
You kind of
pry it.
Jimmy it.
But then you've kind of damaged the top, and it won't necessarily close correctly again.
It gets the air to shoot that thing up, and you can open it pretty easily. Try that next time you're trying to get into your Clausens or your Vlasics.
I hate, though, when you get a little... You try it, and it doesn't open the first time, but then you've exerted yourself, and now your hands get a little sweaty.
Oh,
and then
you're done.
It gets harder and harder, and now you're looking for like a towel or something to get the grip on the... And then once you can't do it, you're feeling even worse about it, and now your wife's watching, and like, you said you could do it, and now you can't do it, and it's not a good feeling.
How about weekend? You get weekend in the morning. Weekend is the thing. You wake up and you're like, I got to open this. And you can't, there's nothing that can happen. You're just like, sorry, I can't do this. I have weekend right now. I get weekend in the morning.
The woman says that her husband was completely blindsided by her divorce request.
Sure he was.
He said there were literally no other issues.
Everything's good. Sex life's great. Everything's,
She says he suggested counseling and she refused. Quote, "There's just no point. I literally can't get past the damned jar lids. He still won't even admit that he did it on purpose. He's given me no reason."
That's it.
Done.
It's a weird one.
It is weird, but I think I'm on her side.
Maybe you weren't meant to be. If that's gonna, if you're the man and you're over tightening, and you're the woman and you want it not tight, maybe you guys weren't meant to be. It happens.
I'm sorry about your weak hand syndrome.
It sucks. You don't get it?
I don't think so.
Oh man, get it like in the mornings, on the weekends.
What are you opening in the mornings? Peanut butter?
Yeah, something. Anything.
Those are plastic. No,
anything.
Those are really
like
easy.
Gatorade. I'm like, I can't open this for you, buddy. I'm sorry. No chance.
A Gatorade.
Yeah. Like a Gatorade.
A plastic Gatorade?
Yeah, we can.
Really?
Yeah, it'll get you.
Never had trouble with a Gatorade
It'll
before.
get you. It'll get you.
Like pasta sauce.
Pasta
that's
sauce.
always the tricky one.
Yep, it's a tough one. Pickles.
The metal top with the glass.
They don't have like a machine, like a can opener.
No,
for
a jar.
You're just kind of screwed.
Yep, you are. Especially
Or
when you
you're-
have weak hands.
You're literally screwed. Too tight.
Yeah, too tight. Screwed it on too tight.
All right,
Paul.
good stuff on the Reindl Report today. All right, we'll come back. Got a big game tonight. If you want to continue the momentum from last night, we'll talk about it next after traffic here at 97.3 The Fan. Congratulations to J.J. Redick on winning his press conference yesterday as the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Now, I'm glad you said that because I did see a lot of hand-wringing yesterday. Lots of hand-wringing from the media over the F word that he said.
He did use an F word during his very proper, otherwise, news conference.
I think they asked him about distractions or something.
Is there any misconceptions that you'd like to clear up about you taking this job? He was a little funny. He came in and said, "I don't know if you've heard this before, but I have no NBA head coaching experience at all." You know, he's obviously a savvy guy. He's good on camera. That's why he's been working on ESPN. So I fully expected him to do very well in the press conference. If he didn't, that would have been such an unbelievably bad sign. If J.J. Redick couldn't have even won the press conference, then he would have had no hope as an NBA head coach. It makes no difference at all if you win the opening press conference. Andy Green won his opening press conference.
Yeah, see, Jace Tingler, though, did the whole manage games in my mind.
Jace Tingler, that was a bad sign that he didn't win the opening press conference.
That was a tough one, man.
But at the very least, I knew J.J. Redick would do well getting introduced to the media.
Why do people get so offended by the F word in the year of our Lord 2024? They're like, man, he's a pro. He should handle himself better. I'm like, you don't think coaches say the F word? I have to keep myself from saying the F word at T-ball practice. Trust me. I get it. They're 6, but this is a grown man coaching grown men. I like people that are real. I like people that talk the way they talk. I had a guy one time reach out to Adam about my salty language, and Adam goes, he would never talk this way at home in front of his kids. And Adam goes, bro, that's exactly who he is, on and off the air, 100%. And the guy goes, oh, well, in that case, that's pretty cool. I'm like, what? Like, what are we clutching our pearls?
Well,
how salty can you get on the radio?
I guess I would say he knows that it's probably being broadcast live and possibly over the air to some places. And as a broadcaster, you should probably know that there are certain words that we, as broadcasters, are not supposed to say live on the radio.
I wish we could.
We get punished by fines for those words.
Yeah.
So
he goes, I don't give an F. This is great. By the way, it's how people talk. It's how real people talk out there in the world. Just be yourself. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm not a Laker fan by any stretch, but I was like, it's a good press conference.
It was a solid press conference. Yeah. Does it help him win one single game?
Nope,
No.
Not a one.
Not at all. That's the work is still to come for J.J. Redick in trying to build in an almost impossible situation.
Oh, yeah.
A winner. But he said the right things, going for the championship, talked about, wanting to give back, be a teacher, help other people become the best players they can be, all the things you would expect someone to say in that situation. And J.J. Redick did a nice job yesterday.
No question.
All right, we've got some tickets to give away, more San Diego Legion tickets. They are a championship contender here. They've qualified for the playoffs. They are wrapping up the regular season this Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. If you want to check out some rugby in person against the Seattle Seawolves, you can win a pair of tickets right now. The third caller at 833-288-0973. Going to get a pair of tickets to see the Legion and Seattle Seawolves again this Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. Call 833-288-0973 or get your own tickets at sdlegion.com. While you call in, we'll take our final timeout. Then we'll come back and we can talk about tonight's game, continuing this series, Padres, Washington Nationals, trying to, put together more than just one run at the same time. That magnet that gets you back to 500. Can you escape its grip?
Yeah, it's the
for
death
more than
grip.
A day or two.
Yeah.
A win tonight would at least be a step in the right direction. We'll get to that next year on 97.3 The Fan.
A little extra juice, Benny, for tonight's game, right? Mackenzie Gore going against, the GM that traded him. C.J. Abrams had a big night last night for the Nationals. You had Jesse Winker going into the stands last night to yell at a 66-year-old man, I believe, who said it was Bush League, that they went up and into Jurickson Profar. You had the Washington Nationals broadcast talking about the Padres celebration on their own home field after scoring 4 runs in the 10th. Like, that's something that happens every single night. Yeah, man, a little extra juice tonight out at Petco Park.
Any fireworks?
I've been thinking about it a lot this morning. We know
Mackenzie Gore a little bit.
He's a salty dude.
What was the story? You mentioned it, and I didn't see it. When he tried, you said, to fight his own?
Yeah, Nick Senzel.
Third baseman?
Yeah. So,
okay. What happened?
Grounder to third. I don't remember the inning, the situation. Grounder to third. Senzel, I think he just backhands it, and he stops, and he just kind of lollipops one over to first, and it had an arc, and the guy was safe. He beat it out. So after they got in the dugout, Mackenzie Gore said something to him like, "Hey, dude, why are you half-assing that throw?" And Senzel was like, "I don't want to hear it from you. You work every 5 days. I don't want to hear a word from you." And they got after it in the dugout, and they had to be separated. So those kind of things happen during the course of a long ass season, I'm sure.
Seems like a sign of potential, a rift in the clubhouse, bad things. But the Nationals, at least until yesterday, one of the hottest teams in baseball. They won 11 of their previous 15 games coming into this series.
A lot of times those things are good for clubhouse. You kind of get it all out. You air it out. And Nick Senzel probably got mad because, he did lollipop. Your pitcher's out there fighting for his life, and you're half-assing a throw from third base, and a guy beats it out. And, it's probably a good thing inherently. Nick Senzel won't do that again. He's not gonna half-ass a throw over there. So I just think, Mackenzie Gore is a really fiery competitor. You know that. He's a tough kid. We all like Mackenzie Gore. I don't think he's going to – I think he wants – for him, I'm going to put myself in his shoes, not that I'd ever be. But for me and for you guys, what would you want to do? Wouldn't you want to go out and shove for 7 shutout innings? That's what I would want to do. Not go out and dot Jurickson Profar for being excited about hitting a walk-off, rule book double.
Yeah, that's what I would want to do as the starting pitcher, but we don't know the temperature of the clubhouse and the guys from last night, and maybe it carries. I mean, I don't know. I would hope that cooler heads prevail.
Yeah, 24 hours.
24 hours later, it's fine. But if your teammates are all still pissed off, like really angry and expecting something, I think you got to do what you got to do.
I think for him,
I'm not like advocating for.
No, I think if you're him, you want to go out and dominate on the mound. That's the ultimate revenge. And if you're at 100 pitches and then you throw one, go ahead.
I think we've expected a few times some fireworks, and they haven't ever materialized. So I'm not gonna expect anything to happen in the game today.
No, it's probably the closest we've been to a Donnybrook or a brouhaha this year, certainly.
Wonder if Adrian Morejon said anything to Jake Cronenworth about his throw in the 7th inning.
Man, right?
3-hopper to first base. Ended up costing the Padres the run that tied the game and ended up forcing extra innings.
Yeah, you want to, and listen,
someone needs to talk to Jake.
Neither Croney or Hassan Kim were charged with errors on those, but I think they probably should have been, and I think both of those guys would tell you, I need to do better on that. So you want to make sure you play clean today. You're up against it. If you're the San Diego Padres, let's not sugarcoat anything. You're up against it. You got Adam Azier on the mound. He's been pretty wild. The command has not necessarily been there. The stuff really hasn't looked superb at all. But listen, you got thrown into this. You're in a pinch, and you need him to go out and give you everything he has. Don't know how well rested the bullpen is after last night either. So, hey, man, it's a recipe for disaster, but I've said that before and been proven wrong.
At least if you're going to use all your top guys, emerge with a victory. That game could have been pretty disastrous. Use all your top relievers, have your best pitching matchup of the series, and end up with a loss at the end of the day. Could have been really, really ugly. I'm curious to see what the outfield's going to look like going forward on a day-to-day basis without Fernando Tatis Jr. for the next probably at least month, maybe longer. I don't get the sense that Bryce Johnson is your everyday option. He got the opportunity yesterday. Mike Schilt talked about Tyler Wade getting some at-bats in the outfield. Eggy Rosario may at some point start getting some at-bats in the outfield.
It's got to be today, I would imagine.
Well, he might
Eggy.
get some at-bats. I don't know if they're ready to put him in the outfield. I mean, he's an infielder by trade. So
He's played didn't he?
some,
Yeah.
but they said they want to work with him a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe they'll throw him into the fire and just get him out there to get his bat into the lineup. You can put Peralta out there, but he's not a plus defender at this point. So you have some options, but what are the best ways to go forward? And do you consider making a move at any point?
I mean, I think they're always looking to make moves. I just don't know how splashy they're going to be right now. And, I did see some sentiment online of, well, now that Tatis is out, time to kind of not fold up the tents, so to speak. But
I'm more concerned about Darvish and Musgrove,
Right.
and if AJ can even wait until closer to the trade deadline, or if he has to go make a move and get a pitcher sooner rather than later.
Starting pitchers are not really growing on trees right now. They're just not. There's a couple teams that would probably be willing to deal, but it's going to cost
prospect capital that you have. I mean,
but do you don't want to trade Salas or DeVries, and so I don't know what you want to do.
Well, we've heard about Garrett Crochet. I got another name for you that was brought up this morning by ESPN's Jeff Passan. I'll get to that right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Not too bad of a wrap-up for our morning drive. Got a stalled car in the North County, the westbound side of the 78. This is right before San Marcos Boulevard. It's in the center divide. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So this morning, ESPN's Baseball Insider dropped a little column basically going through each playoff contender and who would be the top trade deadline addition for each team, like realistic addition that they could go after. Now, obviously, some of these names require their teams decide that they're ready to trade players as opposed to acquire, and that specifically is true with the name that Jeff Passan came up for your San Diego Padres. So he said, best match, weakness, starting pitching. Best match, Luis Severino. Padres are pot committed, and they are a starter, maybe two, away from taking control of one of the NL wildcard slots. Severino fits almost all of their needs. Been very good with a 3.29 ERA over 90 1/3 innings and 15 starts for the Mets. His slider is a true out pitch, a lead in shape and outcome. And with San Diego's budgetary concerns, he would be coming from an organization that just last year was willing to eat tens of millions of dollars when the Mets traded starters Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. With Yu Darvish suffering a setback in his attempt to return from the injured list, Dylan Cease, Michael King, and Matt Waldron are the only three reliable starters in San Diego's rotation. Getting Severino would strengthen the Padres starting group and allow general manager A.J. Preller to hold on to his top hitting prospects, catcher Ethan Salas and shortstop Leo DeVries, who are the sort of return Chicago would seek if Preller went whale hunting and tried to land Crochet.
What's he cost? I mean, it's, great. For what?
I mean, he doesn't think it's one of the top guys. Probably a Lesko and or a Snelling, especially if you're going to ask them to eat money.
It's just hard
on the deal, and you would be asking them to eat money.
It's just hard because, you're one game over 500. The NL is a little bit suspect right now, but you also don't want to give the appearance that you're packing it in and bringing up, no offense to them, the Bryce Johnsons of the world, the Adam Mazurs of the world. That's not sustainable. That they're not going to make some sort of miraculous run with those guys being your depth. I think. So.
Yeah, but if you're probably still counting on the fact that Tatis and Bogarts are going to be back and hopefully healthy at some point. Good pitching can get you through a period of time during the season, even when your hitting's down, because good pitching beats good hitting.
And you
can win 3-2 games with good pitching.
You still have hitters.
But if you're giving up 5 or 6 runs consistently, you don't have the offense to overcome that right now consistently. But good pitching would go a long way, I think. Maybe you solve your Tatis problem by going after more pitching and going after it a little bit sooner.
It's like Michael says, the Mets are a game and a half out. Why are they, and like Jeff Passan, he did qualify, and Ben did mention the qualifier. When do they decide that they're ready to move? If there's no reason to move Luis Severino right now, then there's no reason. You keep him and try to make a run yourself. So, I mean, again, they're in New York. Of course, Steve Cohen can't, for 2 years in a row, be like, that's it for us. I know it's end of June, but I know we have 6 weeks left till the trading deadline. We're done. We're probably not going to make a run. I know we spent a ton of money. I think they're still number one in payroll. We're done.
Which
is not
does insulate Cohen from some criticism, even if they aren't going after. You can't say, well, why does this owner spend any money on the team? Well, he's spending the most money on his team the last 2 seasons. Maybe not effectively, definitely not effectively, but that's more of your baseball operations issue than the ownership issue.
Yep, and with a new GM in place there, he's going to be able to do his thing, and we'll see. We'll see what kind of move that is. I think it is possible to be sellers and buyers at the deadline. We've seen that before. If you feel like you're trading from a position of power and depth, and if the Mets feel that way, be happy to take Luis Severino off your hands. Could use him tonight, on the bump. So I don't know. It remains a very interesting landscape in Major League Baseball right now because of the extra wild card, because a lot of teams at least want to give the appearance, Ben. Oh no, we're still in this thing, and again, it's a needle you have to thread if you're a GM, isn't it? Like where you have to say, I'd really love to improve our team for the future, but I can't give the appearance that we're packing it in for this year because then people won't buy tickets. They're not going to trust that I have the best interests in mind. I mean, AJ Preller he's got his work cut out for him again. But again, this is all of his own. It's all of his own doing. So I think if you're the San Diego Padres and you see 39,000 people against the Nationals on a Monday night, you have no choice. You have no choice. And again, you can still improve your team hanging on to your top 2 guys. If those are the only untouchable guys, you can improve your team, bar none.
It's never a bad idea to make a smart deal.
Never.
Whether it's
always a good idea.
Whether it's one that's aimed toward the future or the present. You want every deal to be a smart, valued deal for your franchise. You don't want to give up too much if you're acquiring a player, and you want to get as much back if you're willing to deal a player. So make the smart deals that are out there.
Dan says in the chat, Musgrove, Tatis, X, come back, no trades needed. If you told me Joe Musgrove had a strained calf and Darvish had a tight quad
blister,
and Tatis had a minor ankle sprain, and Xander Bogaerts had a forearm strain. Yes, Dan, I think you are absolutely right.
It's possible Xander Bogaerts is the first one back out of
all
those 4 names.
It's absolutely,
which is not good.
I do feel like.
And by the way, as I Need Money says, this bullpen needs an arm, as well.
Or 3
or 2, and so. You could improve your depth in other spots as well. Like, it's just, they need a lot.
Tatis and Bogaerts, I'm pretty confident, will be back healthy at some point this season. I don't know how soon it will be, but before the end of the season, both guys will be healthy. Will they be producing? That, again, that's a mystery. That's baseball. But those guys will be healthy. I can't say that about Joe, and I'm not even sure I can say that about Darvish at this point. Just too much is unknown. So pitching, to me, is still the number one area of need for the Padres.
Joe said yesterday before the game that he's started like the very initial stages of throwing on a field. I mean, he could be weeks away.
Yeah.
And there's just so much unknown.
It's just a weird, we are one of those teams, and there's a bunch of us. We are one of those weird positions where you can't start selling guys, in my opinion. I mean, you can't. I mean, what's the fan base going to do? If you're like, well, we could move Ha-Seong Kim and Dylan Cease, and I mean, could you get some really nice pieces in return? The answer to that question is yes on paper. Maybe. You don't know what it's going to yield.
If someone wants to overpay, I listen.
Sure.
I do listen. Doesn't mean you're waving the white flag necessarily, because you can make another move and get someone else.
Yes, and that we've seen that move.
So you
before
have to
as well.
you have to listen in this kind of market when there's so many buyers.
The Cease one would be strange. There would have to be a lot of things happening behind the scenes.
That'd be tough. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Win tonight.
That's it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow.
Today.
That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Baseball
in the
tomorrow.
morning.
Yeah, but we'll be back in the morning to wrap up tonight's game and, do the discussion that we always do in the mornings. For Paul Reindl, for Stephen Woods, I'm Ben Higgins. Annie and Elston coming up next. Keep it right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.